Right. Like we are all here, we'll reconvene virtually with all members present. Please note that Bob Landergan is absent excused. Last week during the storm, he was in his role as a dedicated Madison Ambulance Corps volunteer. He was responding to a call, had a fall coming out of his home, and ended up riding in the back instead of the front. And so he is home recovering right now. Our thoughts are with him for a speedy recovery. And again, thank you to Bob for his dedication, not only on this council, but as a volunteer with our ambulance corps. So please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice. You want to take a moment for silence to recognize a few residents we lost in the last 2 weeks. Dr. James Campbell, longtime Madison resident, died on Friday, February 12th, age of 95. He was born in Morgantown, West Virginia, grew up in Morgantown, attended high school before enlisting in the Navy in June of 43. He served in World War II aboard several Navy supply ships that operated throughout the South Pacific until his honorable discharge in June of 46. Upon returning from the war, James attended the University of Pennsylvania, where he received his BDS degree. He relocated to Madison in the early 1950s and served the community as a general dentist for close to 50 years. James established his first practice at 26 Main Street until he purchased a property at the corner of Greenwood and Britton Street. Around the same time, James met his beloved wife, Carolyn Marr, who lived directly across the street from him in Madison. The couple were married in June 1955 and settled in Madison in 56, where they raised their family and have lived here ever since. And he was delighted when his son-in-law, Dr. Roger Patel, who was on our zoning board of adjustment, joined his practice. Roger continues to run that practice at the corner of Greenwood and Britton. The two worked together for 13 years before James retired in 94. James was a member of the Masonic Lodge, as well as active member of Madison Kiwanis Club. He's survived by his wife of 65 years, Carolyn, one sister and two daughters, Catherine and her husband, Dr. Roger Patel, and Carolyn and her husband, John Prickus, county commissioner, and two sons, James Andrew Campbell and David Campbell, and 6 grandchildren and a great-grandson. And then Anthony Finaro, lifelong Madison resident, passed away peacefully on Sunday, February 14th, at the age of 85. Born in Brooklyn in 1935, his family relocated to Madison when Anthony was young and has been here ever since. He joined the Coast Guard after high school and was very proud of his service. After honorable discharge, he had a long career as a mail carrier in Madison for over 30 years. He adored his job, knew all the best routes in Madison, and developed lasting friendships with all the people that he met along his route. He married his wife, Carol, in July of 1958 and was a lifelong parishioner of St. Vincent Martyr Church. And he is survived by his wife of 62 years, his sons Anthony, Carmine, and Stephen, predeceased by his son Michael, also succeeded or survived by his brothers Carmine and Jack, his sister Rose, daughter-in-laws, numerous grandchildren, and several great-grandchildren. And then Octavio Patti Vicente, longtime Madison resident, died on February 19th at the age of 91, born in New York City, married his wife Dolores in 1957, actually settled in Kearney, where they raised their family, and then moved to Madison over 40 years ago. He earned his bachelor's degree from Fairleigh Dickinson in Rutherford, long career as a purchasing agent at several large companies, and retired 30 years ago. He was a Mason, a longtime member of the Kane Colonial Prospect Lodge. He was also active in the Salam Shriners organization, including a member of the Shriners String Band. He is survived by his wife of 64 years, Dolores, his daughter, Rosemary Dark, and her husband, and also 3 grandchildren. And also remember Robert Bob Bass, longtime Madison resident, died on February 19th at the age of 78, born in Newark in 43. His father, Charles, died in combat, serving our country in World War II when Bob was just an infant. He was raised by his mother. He married the love of his life, Jean, on July 1964, and the couple moved out of Newark to live in the suburbs. They settled here in Madison and lived here ever since. He was a salesman of building materials for most of his career, and later in his career sold cell phones when they first entered the market. In his retirement, he worked part-time at the Waverly restaurant. He's survived by his wife of 56 years, Jean. And then Douglas Sturkle, age 54, passed away at home on February 13th. Born in Superior, Nebraska, grew up from a farm near Nelson, Nebraska, and graduated from Nelson High School. Earned his undergraduate degree from University of Nebraska-Lincoln, MBA from Loyola University of Chicago. Lived in Maryland and Chicago before moving to Madison in 2000. Worked at Abbott Laboratories and Agri Capital prior to starting his own investment firm, Sturkle and Company, 3 years ago. He was a beloved husband for 27 years to Julie and most devoted father of Austin, Jess, and Jordan. Let us take a moment to remember Dr. James Campbell, Anthony Finaro, Octavio Vicente, Robert Bass, and Douglas Sturkle. And let us also remember the 500,000 people in our country who have died over the past year due to COVID-19. Let us pass our thoughts on to the families and friends they all leave behind. Thank you. They have a motion for the executive minutes on February 8th, 2021.
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Already been discussed. All in favor?
Aye.
Indicate unanimous. Okay. And a motion for the regular minutes of February 8th, 2021.
So moved. Second.
Any discussion or corrections? All in favor?
Aye.
Indicate unanimous. Thank you. All right, welcome all. And the good news is it's been at least 3 hours since the last snowflake, or at least for now. I want to welcome our advanced journalism class from Drew University, who are in attendance virtually tonight. And also want to congratulate Sweet Geek Technologies of Madison as one of 2 Northern New Jersey Black-owned small businesses that received a $10,000 grant from the New York Jets and Visa. And this was in their commitment to support Black-owned small businesses to amplify Black voices and to help provide financial support in communities in need during these particular hard times. Sweet Pea Technologies was founded in 2004 by Alfonso and Susan Crom. They are, I think, attending our meeting virtually right now, and their business is located right here in Madison. They provide video and audio transfer services, specializing in transferring old media to digital media. Their consumer business has been hit, like many others, by the pandemic, and now they primarily operate as an online service. Through the grant, Sweet Pea Technologies will be looking to update their equipment and further their marketing opportunities to help promote their business. So congratulations to Alfonso and Susan. And it certainly was, we're going to bring on a panelist to accept a proclamation. I'm going to bring up Claudine. Welcome, Claudine. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, everyone.
And it was an honor to recognize a small Black-owned business right here in Madison. And now we want to shift to recognizing Black History Month. a time to recognize accomplishments by so many great African Americans in the history of our country, but also it's a time to remember the many barriers that have been put in place, making it more difficult for those of color to succeed not only in the past, but today. And so this proclamation is as much about history as it is about our future. And so it is with that commitment to the future that it's an honor to have Claudine Berti from MARE, which is a Madison Alliance on Racial Equality. So thank you with your leadership and all the volunteers of that group. Present this proclamation. Whereas National African American History Month each February celebrates the contributions that African Americans have made to American history and their struggles for freedom, equality, and deepens our understanding of our nation's history. And whereas since every February since 1926, African American history has been celebrated in America, that year, historian Dr. Carter Woodson created Negro History Week, which evolved into Black History Month. And whereas in 1975, President Ford issued a message on the observance of Black History Week, urging all Americans to recognize the important contributions that made our nation's life and culture by Black citizens. In 1976, this commemoration of Black history in the United States was expanded to Black History Month, also known as African American History Month. And President Ford issued the first message on the observance of Black History Month that year. And whereas during African American History Month, we celebrate the many achievements and contributions made by African Americans to our economic, cultural, and spiritual and political development. And whereas these accomplishments are even more remarkable for having been won at the cost of great struggle and sacrifice by men and women who came to these shores in chains and by their descendants. And whereas this is also a time to reflect on centuries of oppression, including slavery, which was not limited to the southern states, but right here in New Jersey, along with throughout the North, and school segregation, whether it was directly through legislation or indirectly through the management, which continues to feed an education gap. And that the American dream of home ownership was virtually impossible for those of color through redlining and exclusionary zoning practices. And whereas former President Barack Obama proclaimed every American can draw from the strength of the story of hard-won progress, which not only defines the African-American experience, but also lies in the heart of our nation as a whole. Now, therefore, I, Robert H. Connolly, the Mayor of Borough of Madison, on behalf of the governing body, hereby proclaim February 2021 as African American History Month and ask all to remember the impact that African Americans have made in our country, while we also commit to a racially just future. I further encourage all residents to celebrate our diverse heritage and culture and continue our efforts to create a world that is just, peaceful, and prosperous for all. Here's the proclamation. I'll hand off to you. There we go. Claudine, if you'd like to say a few words.
Thank you, Mayor Conley, and thank you to the Borough Council for recognizing this very important month and the contribution of so many in our community today and the past. I'm honored to accept this on behalf of the Madison Alliance on Racial Equity, but also on all Madisonians. I think it's important for us to continue to talk about our shared history and to work together on how we can address issues of institutional and pervasive inequality that continue to exist, and do it together as a community of people who care about each other and people who are committed to seeing success and prosperity for everyone. So thank you very much and have a wonderful evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Claudine. And again, thank you for the work of Mayor, and we're looking forward to sitting down with you and some of the volunteers to discuss what we can partner on to make Madison better for all.
I look forward to it. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. And now we move on to reports from committees. Public Safety, Council President Byrne.
Thank you, Mayor. From the fire department, engine 1 was out of service for a short period of time for a broken rear leaf spring. New leaf springs were installed last week, and she was placed back in service last night after all her hose and equipment were reloaded. On Friday morning, February 12th, around 9:40 a.m., Madison responded along with many other fire departments and agencies to a residential structure fire on Allen Drive in Morris Township. There was heavy fire damage throughout the house. This was a multi-alarm fire. All did a great job working together. And then last week, the fire department was awarded a FEMA AFG grant in the amount of $42,665.70 to reimburse costs related to equipment purchase to deal with the COVID-19 pandemic. This was our second AFG COVID grant award, bringing the total reimbursement from FEMA to Madison to $56,549.16. Thank you to Lieutenant Kyle Wickman for writing and putting the grants together. And then from the police department, during the past several weeks, all Madison police officers have been retrained and recertified in CPR and using the automatic external defibrillator that each patrol officer is equipped, that each patrol vehicle is equipped with. This training requirement is conducted every 2 years to get our officers proficient in CPR and AED usage. On Friday, February 8th at 9:27, police officers were dispatched to the Madison High School property at the tennis courts for a patient who was suffering from a possible seizure. The patient was identified as a 50-year-old Madison resident who was playing tennis with a friend. His friend, also a Madison resident, witnessed the patient's collapse and immediately called 911. Madison Police Patrolman Michael Clancy, who was patrolling near Madison High School, arrived on the scene within seconds of being dispatched. When Patrolman Clancy arrived and assessed the patient, he observed the patient was not breathing, did not have a pulse, and was in cardiac arrest. He immediately notified Madison Dispatch and began performing life-saving measures. Patrolman Nelson Jimenez and Madison Ambulance Corps personnel arrived shortly thereafter and began assisting with CPR. After continuing life-saving measures, the officers applied the AED and administered several shocks, and a pulse was regained on the patient, who began breathing on his own. The patient was ultimately transported to Morristown Medical Center where he's recovering. Chief Atchison credits the quick actions and training for all first responders involved with giving the patient a second chance at life. Everyone worked as a team and saved a life. Life-saving efforts like this incident occur every day across this nation by our dedicated first responders. That's the end of my report.
Thank you. And let's for Finance and Borough Clerk, Ms. Bailey.
Thank you, Mayor. First, I'd like to give an update on the Open Space, Recreation, and Historic Preservation Trust Fund. Recently, several people have asked about the Open Space Trust Fund dollars being used for historic preservation, specifically the restoration of the Hartley Dodge Memorial and the plaza in front of the Hartley Dodge Memorial. In discussing the trust fund, we often shorten the trust fund title to the Open Space Trust Fund, but that has obviously caused some confusion. The title of the fund is Open Space, Recreation, and Historic Preservation. In 2004, the residents of Madison overwhelmingly voted for a dedicated tax to be placed in the trust fund for the preservation and acquisition of open space, active recreation, and historic restoration and preservation. An ordinance was established, was passed to establish an advisory committee to the mayor and council to examine funding requests and to advise the council. Only the council has the authority to approve projects for open space, recreation, and historic preservation dollars. And over the years, the trust fund has been used for open space acquisition and recreation, like the Madison Recreation Complex. Our largest historic preservation fund request was for the restoration of the James Library building, which is owned by the municipality, but is home to the Museum of Early Trades and Crafts. Now, Hartley Dodge Memorial and the plaza in front are in our historic district. This building and the plaza must be maintained by the borough. Although there is a foundation, the trustees have full control of that fund, and they decide how that money will be spent. We, the borough, have sought out and received grants for this project from both the state and the county. So taking money from the trust fund to finally restore the east wing of Hartley Dodge Memorial and get it occupied and restore the plaza is an appropriate use of the fund. And our CFO gave me a breakdown of the fund. And to date, open space is accounted for approximately $981,932 of the fund. Historic preservation is been approximately $1.13 million. And recreation has been, active recreation has been $1.98 million. It's just to give you an idea of how the fund has been used. It has been used mostly for active recreation. And then finally, for Borough and Borough Clerk and Finance, tonight we're going to talk again about the 2021 budget. This is the sixth discussion we've had on this topic. And the first part of the presentation will be given by some of our department heads, including construction, fire, police, engineering, and the public library. And then Jim Burnett, our Chief Financial Officer, will give us some more additional budget information. So tonight we're going to be talking about numbers. We're going to be talking about a 2% tax increase for the borough. That doesn't mean we have voted on the budget, and we're not going to vote on the budget tonight. The Chief Financial Officer needs to put together the documents, the official state budget document, and that takes a lot of time. So we'd like to start the process now, and then we'll continue the discussion. And we are scheduled to vote to adopt the budget in 9 weeks on April 26th. So we have plenty of time to make changes. And once we see the document in place, we can ask some more questions. And it is important to note that when we vote, the council votes, we will be voting on the municipal portion of the property tax bill, which is about 21.8% of the total tax bill for a resident. 16.2% of your property taxes go to the county, and 62% of your property taxes go to the school board. Each month, the CFO of our town wires about $3.6 million to the Board of Education. Later this evening, you will hear about a new page on RoseNet where you can type in your 2020 property tax bill and get the breakdown of your property taxes in 2020 as well as 2013. This council and past councils have worked hard to keep property taxes down. And I'm proud to say that the municipal property taxes on an existing home have only gone up 4% over the last 7 years. And finally, there's good news from Washington. A bill is moving through the House that will give Madison a significant amount of federal dollars for COVID relief. And our borough administration has been in touch with Mikey Sherrill's office, and we do have some more information to give you later on in the evening. So thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. And now on to Public Works and Engineering and Health as backup, John Hoover.
Thank you, Mayor. On the Department of Public Works, DPW was busy last week and today with snow removal activities. They worked Thursday from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. and then returned at 4 a.m. on Friday to deal with an ice storm. DPW assisted the Madison Housing Authority removing snow from their inner circle and parking areas to create space for the Sioux Falls medical van and their staff, who are scheduled to vaccinate 90 Rexford Tucker seniors on February 25th. DPW assisted the Madison Chatham joint meeting to salt their roads and facilities due to a short supply of rock salt and grit by Chatham Borough DPW. With warmer weather anticipated this week, DPW will concentrate on clearing storm drains, patching potholes, and snow pile removal from the borough parking lots. Advanced planning has started with the Recreation Department to develop and implement a work plan to get each recreation field in shape for the spring sporting activity. DPW is in the process of ordering 2 commercial grade battery operated leaf blowers to reduce our carbon footprint. DPW is currently researching whether the roofs on the Butler style building at the DPW yard are suitable sites to install solar panels. DPW is also exploring replacing the single pane windows in their garage with more energy efficient products. Lastly, DPW is working with the consultant funded by PSE&G to perform complete energy audits of the library, public safety complex, DPW, Water and Light, and Hartley Dodge. For engineering, contracts for the Morris County cooperative vendors for resurfacing work have been sent. Plans and specifications are ready for advertisement for Anthony Drive and Wayne Boulevard. Contract agreements for Merrill and Garagusa on the Hartley Dodge Plaza are being prepared. Dodge Playground, Cook Parking Lot, and the MRC Trail remediation plans are in progress. Based on the September application submittal, the NJDEP issued a permit for trails improvements within Memorial Park this past week. This will allow trails, boardwalk development, and/or trails grant applications for Memorial Park this year. The Recreation Department, with the cooperation of the Board of Education, it has been arranged to have a storage shed dedicated to pickleball installed adjacent to the MHS Madison High School tennis courts. Additionally, pickleball nets have been purchased for each of the 12 courts located in Madison High School. Once the shed is installed and the nets are delivered, residents will no longer need to supply their own nets when using the courts. As soon as the weather permits, new basketball lines will be added to the recently repaved courts at Lucy D and Del Barton Park, with new rims and backboards will be added for Del Barton. This spring, the process of replacing the fencing at several of our baseball fields will beginning with Lucy D. Myrtle. This represents the final major short-term step in the ongoing process of upgrading our fields both functionally and cosmetically. And lastly, the spring schedule at Borough Fields is fully set to begin on March 1st. Weather permitting, summer time slots are still available. If you're interested in securing space, please email the Director of Recreation at recreation@rosenet.org. The Madison Environmental Commission, the MEC's e-newsletter has a new sign-up link on the Environmental Commission page at rosenet.org. Please go to the rosenet.org and e-news sign-up. Launched last spring, this popular newsletter is a great source for tips on everything from protecting pollinators to energy efficiency. It lists the latest green community events and webinars. Visitors are welcome to submit ideas for stories by writing to mec@rosenet.org. Parks Advisory. Parks is currently engaged with Open Space Madison Historical Society and Historic Preservation Commission to facilitate the stabilization of the interior of the Luke Miller Forge building on Ridgedale Avenue. The committee continues to review the proposal submitted for the Parks Master Plan. Parks Master Plan. A presentation will be given to Open Space as well as the Parks Advisory Committee describing the scope of the master plan as well as describing the differences between a landscape architect, a master plan, and a townwide planning master plan. Shade Tree Management. The Shade Tree Management Board, in conjunction with DPW, has finalized this spring tree planting list. The emphasis this year will be to plant trees on the major roadways entering Madison, as well as specific resident requests. Residents requesting new street trees will contact the Shade Tree Management Board at 973-593-3088. Want me to do the Health Department, Mayor? Health Department continues to follow up with those with outstanding 2021 license issues. If you have not yet filed your 2021 animal, food establishment, or other required license, please do so as soon as you can. Now for our COVID-19 updates. As of today, Madison reports 598 total confirmed cases. Of those, 17 are considered active. Case counts have decreased over the last few weeks, thank God, putting an end to the holiday surge that started at Thanksgiving and continued through most of January. Morris County has returned to case counts similar to those just prior to Thanksgiving, but remain about twice that of the case count seen at Halloween. We must continue to work together and practice social distancing, masking, and testing to continue to drive these numbers down. A continuing reminder that non-essential interstate travel outside the region, Pennsylvania, New York, Delaware, and Connecticut, is discouraged. New international travel restrictions and testing requirements went into effect January 26th. So you should look those up. Those that must travel should be sure to follow the appropriate testing and quarantine requirements upon their return. Vaccine sites in Morris County, including the regional site at Rockaway Mall, are now open. We are pleased to report that Morris County leads the state in fully vaccinated residents per capita, with more than 39,000 residents having received both doses. Another 78,500 plus residents have received their first dose. That said, there is still a huge imbalance between those who are eligible and wish to get vaccinated and the number of appointments available. Vaccine supply continues to be the limiting factor for our vaccine efforts. However, we have seen steady increases in the number of doses available in the last 4 weeks. While last week's nationwide winter weather disrupted deliveries of anticipated doses, NJ Department of Health expects to be able to utilize all of the late arriving vaccine this week, so the long-term impact will be minimal. At this time, the Madison Health Department recommends that residents focus on registering with the Atlantic Health System for access to appointments at the Morris County mega site and other local AHS facilities during the vaccine, including locations in Morristown and Summit. Some, although not all, CVS, Rite Aid, and ShopRite locations in Morris County also have limited appointments. More information can be found at their respective websites. Residents with limited internet access can call Morris County's COVID-19 call center at 973-829-8250 for more information and assistance. Visit rosenet.org for updates on the vaccination program, COVID-19 testing locations, and other pandemic-related terms. Remember, the choices we make can have a major impact on the lives of our friends and neighbors. They can also impede our community's ability to operate schools, vital programs, public services, and stay Madison strong. So continue to wash your hands, use face coverings, practice social distancing, and stay home. Get tested if you don't feel well, and get vaccinated when you are eligible. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. And Community Affairs, Ms. Cohen.
Thank you, Mayor. The next meeting of the Downtown Development Commission is scheduled for Thursday, March 18th at 7:15 via Zoom. Information about the May Day Art Contest and sponsorships will be released this week. May Day will be held on Saturday, May 1st. Look for news about the Taste of Madison, which is happening this year, although a little differently, and later in the year. It will not be happening in March. The Madison Loyalty Rewards Card, sponsored by Coldwell Banker, will be available for purchase at Madison Pharmacy for $10 by April 1st. The Chamber's new website will be live mid-March. Looking forward to April, Easter Fun Fest, pending health department and COVID restrictions, will take place on Saturday, April 3rd. The businesses will participate in Find Shelley the Easter Egg event beginning Saturday, March 20th. The event is much like Find Rosie the Rose City Reindeer and will engage the community in a safe way. The Madison Community Arts Center is starting to get rentals for spring and early summer, which is great to hear. Hopefully we'll get to see some nice live theater and performances. MACA had a board meeting on February 17th where 3 new board members were approved, adding back a Drew University representative, a representative from the Shakespeare Theater, as well as the owner of Shanghai Jazz. We're in the process of forming a fundraising committee to begin new initiatives to generate income, and they will be making a contribution to the Hidden Figures Project, which you'll hear about in a little while. And finally, the Senior Citizen Advisory Committee will be meeting this Friday at 2:30. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. And Utilities, Ms. Ehrlich.
Thank you, Mayor. From the Electric Department, the Electric Department is receiving quotes to purchase additional LED streetlights and LED post lights. In the meantime, the Butenheim Terrace Colonial Lamppost upgrade has been completed. All of the fixtures there are now LED. The superintendent and the foreman are consulting with various agencies and the borough electrical engineer, preparing for the numerous upcoming construction projects throughout town this spring and summer. In the Water Department, on Sunday, February 7th at 4 a.m., the Water Department responded to a 6-inch water main break on Burnett Road at Avon Drive, and then another water main break on Troy Court. After repairing those mains and restoring service, the department kept going and assisted with snow plowing until 6 p.m. that day. And then a few days later, on Wednesday, February 10th at 9 p.m., the water department responded to a 6-inch water main break and a main split on Kings Road. As part of the repair, the department removed and replaced a 4-foot section of pipe. So thank you to the water department for their skilled and timely responses to these emergency calls and for their assistance with snow removal throughout the stormy winter season we've been having. That's all for utilities.
Thank you. And communications and petitions.
None received, Mayor.
Thank you. And now we move on to our first of 2 invitations for discussion. This one is limited to our agenda discussion items, which I'll outline in just a second, or any of the resolutions. If you want to comment on other topics, you have to wait till the second round, which will come after the ordinances that are up for hearing. So again, this will be limited to the discussion, these items, and I'll go over the rules in a second. We will have the 2020 Arborist Summary Report. We'll have a discussion about a possibility of a technology task force. We will have a request on the Open Space Recreation and Historic Preservation Trust Fund. We will have a informational thing on the hidden figures of Madison, and then of course the budget hearing, as we will hear from our department heads. It is an ambitious agenda we have tonight. We will, most of those items are fairly short. These are the resolutions you may also comment on. Resolution 74, authorizing a bin donation, clothing bin donation. Start over again. Resolution 74, authorize the placement of clothing donation bin at the Rose City Plaza. That's Stop and Shop and the Jaeger Lumber Plaza. Resolution 75 is authorizing special event permit to in parking lot number 1, that's the Prospect Street parking lot. This is for the End Hunger event, Rotary. Resolution 76 is use of up to $3,000 of open space, recreation, and historic trust fund for tree planting at the Madison Recreation Center. Resolution 77 is approving the use of community pool parking lot by Cub Scout Pack 226 on March 3rd. Resolution 78 is approving contract award services, ACB services for cleaning services for the Civic Center, water and electric light buildings, and the police department. And this is not to, or the contract is $15,758, will be funded through the 2021 budget. Resolution 79 is awarding professional services contract to fund the work by MERGE for the gateway and wayfinding signage system. This is amount of $79,950 and was funded through ordinance 36/2020. And then resolution 80 is a resolution awarding a contract with Tyler Merson for to support preservation and maintenance and upkeep of Hartley Dodge. And this is being funded through an agreement with the Hartley Dodge trustees. This is the contract will be paid by the borough, but fully reimbursed by the trustees. And if you want to comment on those resolutions or the other agenda items I mentioned, you do that by raising your hand. And when you are called and brought and unmuted, first thing you must state is your name and address, and then the agenda item you're commenting on. And try to keep your comments to 3 minutes, but we will give you a 1-minute grace period and you will be stopped at 4 minutes. And failure to start off with your name and address, and especially if you're listed as you're coming in by a phone number. Sorry, for some reason my mouth's not working today. If failure to state that in those orders, you may get muted or disconnected. So please, again, name, address, and state the agenda item. And we may capture your, we will not go into a discussion during your comments, but we'll capture your questions, and we'll either deal with them during the agenda discussion or when appropriate. Jennifer Bauman.
Hi, how are you?
All right.
Hi, Jennifer Bauman, 20 Highland Avenue here in Madison. And I would just like to speak on approving the library budget. I'd like to support them. I'm not only a patron, I'm also a volunteer on the board of the Friends of the Madison Library, and that volunteer department raises extra funds for the library. And I just wanted to say, I think the staff, Lynn and her staff, are doing an absolutely amazing job at continuing business as usual amid the pandemic. I understand that, we're no longer able to go into the library and use the computers, but the staff has been working so hard to get books into the hands of kids and adults. You can request things online, you can browse, and they have hours available almost every day, I believe, in the courtyard. And they also offer free craft pickup for kids and adults, and online story time. So I feel like these services are still highly sought after and are very important in our community. And hopefully one day they'll be able to open up soon. But I just wanted to give a shout out to all the hardworking librarians and all their staff. That's all.
Thank you, Jennifer, and thank you for sharing your praise of our great library. And now, Pat Rowe.
Can you hear me, Mr. Mayor?
Yes, we can.
Thank you. So my comments are on the budget. Pat Rowe, 25 Pine Avenue, Madison, New Jersey. As you said, hopefully they'll be discussed during the budget discussion by the council. First, much like last year, my recommendation to council this year is to not be in a rush to pass a budget when more time may allow you to better assess the borough's financial position. Last year, there were fears that property taxes and utility revenue would slump badly, but neither happened as predicted. If we had waited an additional 30, maybe 45 days, we would have been able to better factor that reality into the budget instead of acting on our fears. This year, as you noted, Congress is in the process of passing a third COVID relief bill, which is going to pay out $1.9 trillion. This reportedly is going to give Madison $3 million, which will be split, I assume, between the school district and the borough. Even if we only end up with about a quarter of it going to the borough, that's still $750,000, which should be more than enough to plug the few holes that were in the budget from some of the revenue shortfalls last year. Second, before finalizing this year's budget, council should examine the projections used for last year's budget and see how many of the warnings did not happen. And this has been kind of standard for the past decade. It should also examine if areas where there were significant revenue drops in 2020 are likely to continue this year. I suspect that if you look at some of them on a month-by-month actual basis, you'll see that probably at least half of them show that there was a serious drop just in the spring, but most would have turned around by the end of the year. We consistently receive pessimistic views of how the budget's going to play out, but if you review them as I have, you will note that we always end up with significantly more money in surplus than had been forecast. This is why the borough's collective unencumbered funds grew from $6 million in 2011 to over $15 million by the beginning of last year. And while it's great that the borough's financial position is in fabulous shape, the money coming out of the pockets of residents, merchants, and other organizations in town, and this is not a great thing at a time when people are struggling to afford to stay in business or live in town. If you review the free balance charts from last year and this year's budget presentations, you'll also note that the actual total free balance at the end of 2019 and 2020's tables were about $300,000 higher than were anticipated this time last year, and the 2021 free balance is now projected at $600,000 higher, and the estimates for 22 and 23 have improved by $1.5 million each, and I think even some of these may still be a bit pessimistic. Third, the council should provide full transparency of all the financial resources it has at its disposal. Council should request a report that shows all the fund and free balances at the end of the year from the years 2010 through the end of 2020 so you can see the trend, and include all the reserves that have been established in the general fund as well as the two utilities. I think without this information, you cannot make a truly informed decision as to whether or not the borough needs to raise taxes in a year when many in town are financially hurting, nor are you providing the community with full transparency without it. So I would ask you to consider all these points discuss them tonight and request that they be covered at a future meeting with the public before moving forward with the final prep of the budget. I believe this will give the council greater confidence in the budget you'll be asked to approve and the community a needed financial break. Thank you for your time, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Pat. Always on top of things, and thank you for all those comments. And Stephen Stocker.
On mute.
Yep, there you go. We can hear you.
You got me. All right. Good to see you all in good health. I'm here to speak on, I'm Stephen Stocker, 136 Park Avenue, Madison. I'm here to speak on Resolution 76. There's not much to say. We're trying to set up a windbreak and sight break from Route 24 along the back edge of the Madison restoration area. I brought with me tonight the water ambassador of District 6, Brian Pink, and a Girl Scout troop leader, Gwen Draywick, who I'd like to give my time over for them to introduce themselves and tell you what this funding will mean to their particular programs. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. We can't yield time, but we can certainly give Brian time. If Brian, can you raise your hand? Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, you will be brought up. You can unmute yourself and please state your name and address and share your comments.
Yeah, hi. My name's Brian Pink. I'm not actually from Madison. I'm from Livingston, 74 Chestnut Street, Livingston, New Jersey. I'm a New Jersey Watershed Ambassador. It's a program from AmeriCorps, which is the domestic version of Peace Corps, federally funded program. And we work in conjunction with the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection, so federal and local government. I'm based out of the Great Swamp Recreation Education Center. And basically, as a watershed ambassador, there's 20 of us in the state of New Jersey. We all have different areas. I have WMA 6, Watershed Management Area 6, which has the Upper Passaic, Whippany, and Rockaway watersheds, which you guys in Madison fall under. And we have three main service priorities. Number one is water quality assessment. We help the NJDEP do assessment of the health of our streams. The second is watershed sustainability education. So we go into various school districts and present to them about the environment and improve awareness amongst the community. We also do this for library saves, etc. And the final thing we do are community stewardship projects. So basically anything that might help improve the environment and our waterways. We do this by river cleanup, trail cleanup, rain barrel workshops, tree plantings, and more projects like that. So we've been around for 20 years, and over the course of 20 years, we've developed a relationship with Stephen Stocker and the Madison Environmental Commission, doing various different projects at the Recreation Center. So this year, the Ambassador Program, AmeriCorps, has developed another relationship with the Girl Scouts of New Jersey. So I met with Stephen back in, I think it was October. We discussed ways that we could work together to improve Madison, improve the recreation area. And one of the things you mentioned was planting some new trees along the edge of the area, which would provide a natural buffer and generally improve the health of the forested area. So in conjunction with the Girl Scouts, we are hoping to provide the manpower to plant about 250 trees this spring, another 250 in the fall, and then the project might expand beyond that as well. But yeah, the Girl
1 minute.
Scouts are a bunch of, I believe, middle school age girls looking for opportunities in leadership and learning about the outdoors and the environment. So they're very excited to work with the AmeriCorps program and with the Madison Environmental Commission to make this project happen.
Thank you very much, Brian, and thank you for your work on behalf of a watershed. And my son is a AmeriCorps alum, so a great program. So thank you for your dedication. And Gwen Derlick.
Hi, good evening. My name is Gwen Derlick. My home address is 763 Amwell Road in Hillsborough. I am a Girl Scout troop leader with 60056, part of the council, the Heart of New Jersey. My girls that are a part of a trailblazing troop, which has its focus on the outdoors, including a very strong strand in conservancy, are very excited to partner with the AmeriCorps and the Environmental Commission on this upcoming tree planting. Soon to be released, Girl Scouts is having a tree promise to plant 5 million trees over the next several years. And the Silver Award projects that the girls are looking to focus on deal with leadership and environmental conservation. They're all very excited to be a part of this opportunity with Madison Borough.
Thank you very much, and thank you for your work with the Girl Scouts, and we're looking forward to this project. Pam Hogan.
Good evening. This is Pam Hogan, and my address is 17 Broadview Avenue, Madison. I'm chair of the Friends of the Madison Public Library, and I'm here tonight to show support for the Madison Public Library's budget proposal that will be presented later this evening. The Friends is a nonprofit organization entirely made up of volunteers. Our efforts and our time are focused on advancing and supporting the library. The Madison Library is one of the gems of our community, and we strongly recommend council support for the proposal of the library budget. I'd like to thank you to the council members and for all that you do. And I'd also like to thank everyone that contributed to our 2020 challenge and the Friends Annual Appeal. It was a great success, and we met and exceeded our goal of $40,000, and we are still welcoming contributions. Thank you very much for the time.
Thank you. And now Ron DiBiase. Welcome, Ron.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
The button popped up a little late. How's it going? Just to be brief, I listened to Pat before give his comments on the budget, and
I say if you can state your name and address.
Ron DiBiase, 81 North Street. Nice one address. I guess we could go with that. Is that good? Ready to go?
That's good, Ron. Thank you.
All right. So I was listening to Pat before, and I really don't think there's much to add to that. I thought he succinctly, summed up pretty much what my concern was. I mean, I think taking a measured approach on the budget and, giving time to review everything in question. That's really my main concern. I mean, I think it seems like it's hard to keep track of where all the money comes and goes these days. That was really it. I mean, he did such a great job of succinctly stating what needed to be said. I really don't think there's anything to add.
Thank you, Ron. Appreciate your comments. And seeing no other hands raised, we will now close this part of the meeting. Just a couple of quick comments related to the library. You'll be hearing this, and in our effort to have a very informative budgeting system, we have the library present budget. We are required to fund them at a mill rate, as any town with a library has to do. We right now in the budget is an additional $100,000 that we put in there when I was a council member to help offset the cost of their utilities, and so we augment the mill rate above and beyond. So You'll be hearing more on the library budget. The comments related to the timing of the budget, and sorry, Tom, this session was closed. You can comment at the second part. Once I close the hearing, we cannot reopen. The comments about the timing, obviously, if the $3 million does come to fruition, which we hope we will, that will be a major game changer, and that would be taken into consideration in any final things, and anything else, as Councilwoman Bailey pointed out, we've got 9 weeks before we actually introduce the budget. So that will be more to come on that. And one other thing I do want to state, because I've been trying to do this, because unlike when we used to meet in person and you could see the people in the room, is that we have, not counting our panelists, which include the council and support, we have 60 people in attendance. Many of those are staff who will be presenting shortly. We now move on to our items for discussion, and let me find my agenda here. Number one is our arborist report.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I've been asked to present the annual report of the arborist Richard Wolowitz, and let me read it to you. Madison's private tree removal ordinance was implemented in March 2020. The main objective of the ordinance was to protect the Madison tree canopy, which is a vital asset to the community. Since the ordinance's inception, there have been ongoing efforts to advertise the new tree removal requirements so that citizens can make informed decisions regarding any tree removal on their properties. Tree permit procedures were developed and implemented with the assistance of the Land Use Administrative Official, Fran Boardman. The initial hurdle after the ordinance was established was to publicize the requirements. The information was sent to the local tree companies, published as an electric bill insert, and posted on the borough's webpage. Private trees. 112 permits were issued for a total removal of 253 private trees. Total fee collection was $4,725. 36 new trees are to be planted. There were no contributions to the Madison Tree Fund. A challenge in the future will be the need to check on those properties which were required to have replacement trees planted to ensure that they met their obligation. With the private trees, 137 were dead, 54% were dead, and or in poor condition due to structural and or storm damage. Authorized construction activities accounted for 23% of the removals, and ash trees accounted for 13 or 5%. 15 or 6% of the trees outgrew their location, that is, too close to foundations, etc. Public trees, 215 Department of Public Works service requests involving 281 trees were inspected. Out of these requests for service, 121 or 43% needed pruning, and 81 or 29% required removal. The remainder were classified as no work required or stumps to be ground. Tree removals, plantings. 253 private trees were removed with a commitment to plant 36 new native hardwood trees. 140 municipal trees were removed, and 125 trees were planted on public property. Additional activities. The Madison Shade Tree Management Board also utilized their services of 2 volunteers to perform a random audit of street trees that were logged into the Arbor Pro municipal tree database. Any inconsistencies were corrected. Future considerations. It would be good to establish a mechanism to ascertain if a tree removal permit was issued when the land use administrative official is not available. This will save many phone calls should an inquiry arise when the tree was observed being removed. Cost of service. The cost of professional arborist services provided to the borough in 2020 was $10,392. This report is published on Rosenet, so if you want to see it and read more, please go right ahead. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Any questions or comments on that? All right, Technology Task Force, Deb and I have worked on this together, and it's
Yeah,
her
so I just, oh,
initiative.
sorry.
Go ahead.
Mayor Conley and I, as well as Jim and Ray, started talking about this in the fall. It's not uncommon for technology departments, whether they're education, government, corporate, nonprofit, to kind of look at themselves every so often and see what others are doing, what efficiencies can be made, how money can be saved. So we started in the fall, and it was best decided to wait till after the new year, as the end of the year was crazy with just various things going on. So we compiled a list. I'm not going to go through the whole thing. It was in the council's packets, but the mission to review current technology and research and recommend policies, procedures, priorities, and improvements to the technology that supports the operation of the Borough of Madison. And the big categories for anybody that knows about technology, it's all a lot of back-end stuff: system hardening, security and disaster recovery, productivity, efficiency, and remote capabilities, programmatic hardware replacement, and system maintenance. And there's lots more underneath all of that. And if council members have questions, I'm happy to answer what I can. This would be in conjunction with the technology department. It's not separate. It's to work with them and see what they've got and what they know versus what other people know, and how we can, improve technology throughout the borough and hopefully save the taxpayers some money. A committee has not been formed yet. We wanted to talk about it a little bit tonight, and then hopefully at our next borough council meeting, bring forward some names to be approved for the committee. So Mayor Bob, I don't know if you have other stuff to add.
Nope, I think that covers it well. And, the idea again would be to put this as a task force and then review as we approach year end as to whether it needs to be a standing committee. Technology has been obviously for a long time very important in our operations, but even more important in our new world, which will be in one way or another with us here to stay. And so we can be even more productive, both as staff and volunteers going forward. Other comments or questions? Austri?
What would be the composition of the task force, and who would be selected, and would it be just an advisory body, back and forth? How would it work?
It would be strictly advisory. Obviously, if there's no cost of running a committee of volunteers. If there's any investments made that need to be made or recommended, that would come to the council. It would be combination of volunteers in the community with the expertise, and not too big of a committee, having overseen a technology committee from the with the Y many years ago when we were looking at network options. A committee of three people of discussing technology will come up with 4 solutions, and so it is a group that gets very energized, and so we'll keep that in mind. We would also reach out to the Board of Education for possible connection there, because working together would be very important.
And we are also hoping to find minorities, females in tech as well. It's hard to find on this side of tech. It's not so hard to find in other areas of tech. But I would say if you're interested, email Mayor Conley. We have some thoughts, but nothing's firm. And we're looking to find people we think that are the best fit for helping the borough improve on technology.
John?
Yeah, Deb and I have been talking about this the last couple of days, and I've been asking questions and back and forth. And I guess I'm struggling with the need to form a task force. We're all busy. I mean, some people can't even don't eat until late at night, right before a meeting starts. And so therefore they don't have any time during the day. And I'm wondering when people are going to have time, and should they spend their time on things that are much more important? I don't know. I'm just asking a question. Do we need the task force? Why can't we take that list and give it to the IT support officer person and have Ray Burnett Ray Cody rather, follow up with the technology guy and answer those questions. Which ones do we have? Which ones don't we have? Which ones are in the planning stage? Those kinds of things. I just don't see the need, in all honesty, at this point, satisfactory, I don't have a satisfactory information to say I can support forming a task force. I don't get it.
Deb?
I think for me, it's one of those things, we should have been doing this prior to this. This should be either an annual or a semi-annual, depending on what's going on. Technology changes all the time. And yes, we can give this list to, our head of technology, but the whole point of a task force or a committee or whatever we decide to call it is to get points of view from other people in similar industry so that it can be known what else is out there. It's very hard to keep up with the changing times. That's the reality. There are, to be honest, in my opinion, some things that could be improved, and there may be some things I don't know. So could we give the list and have Ray follow up? Yes, but the whole purpose of these committees, the Board of Ed did one several years ago. It was too big. It had like 25 people on it. It was kind of crazy, but is to get that input from others and from stakeholders to find out what they're noticing and that sort of thing. So
Ostry?
Yeah, I spoke with Deb also, but I came away with the feeling that this was important because it changes so much, and there's so much information out there that having different perspectives of people who have a knowledge of tech can actually help us and possibly improve our situation as well as maybe save our dollars. So I don't think it can hurt at all. I think it can help us.
Well, and that gets me back to my original point is what's the need for this thing? Do we really have a need? Is there something driving this?
Yeah, I think it's.
Are we deficient? Are we not performing? Do we not have the information? I don't understand.
Yeah, I helped massage the list there, and just to, and then we'll go to Rachel, just to, I use the technology both within the building and as a remote user, as most of you do, for email, and it works, but I would say we're not the most efficient. And when we look into this Zoom world, which we will, is going to be with us whether we like it or not, post pandemic, it takes to another level. So I think it is important when you look at the, just being efficient, and we could be doing better. So Rachel?
Just as a small real world example, I interact just a little bit with technology in the borough through my role as a volunteer. And I can only check my RoseNet email via browser-based webmail running Internet Explorer, which means I have to sit at my laptop in order to get my email and load up a dated Internet Explorer browser, which, Microsoft is actively trying to retire. So, this is a tiny example, but I feel like it's my one point of contact with IT at the borough, and it doesn't leave me feeling like we are being forward thinking. And so that's my perspective on this, is that it's time for a fresh look.
Any other comments or questions? Could I have a motion to move forward with a task force and to start collecting volunteer names?
So moved.
Second.
Yep. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
No.
Opposed? And
No.
John Hoover is a no. So 4 yes and 1 no. Thank you very much. And so start submitting potential names to me. As Deb mentioned, I have a few names already, and we will get this group going. And to John's point of time management and all that, if we reach out to you and you feel overwhelmed, a good word for a volunteer to learn to say is no. So only come on if you're ready. All right, moving on to our Open Space Recreation and Historic Preservation Trust Fund request. And we've already heard a little bit of that through our comment period.
I think you received all the information. I think Stephen and the group did a great job. So I'll just entertain questions regarding the request. If anybody has any further questions.
Yeah, I think it was very well covered. So,
Yeah,
Yeah.
and your material that you received in your packet covered everything.
and part of our fund creates partnerships, and this is a great, hands-on partnership we also have here.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, that's going to be the in-kind contribution, and Stephen is usually gets discounts at all the vendors that he uses.
Very good. Any other questions? If not, this is resolution 76 on the consent. And now on to Hidden Figures of Madison. Deb?
Okay, so I am going to start briefly talking about this and just kind of its origins, and then Kenesha Tucker is going to take over. Hidden Figures of Madison came from community conversations, which I started in July as a way to bring the community together and start discussing issues of racial injustice and how we can come together as a community. A lot of that work has been shifted over to the mayor group, who is better skilled for addressing a lot of those concerns. But one of the things that came out of one of our first meetings was how to do a mural in Madison that was addressing racial issues. So Kenesha Tucker, Danielle Nebres, who are both residents of Madison, myself, Deb Starker from the Museum of Early Trades and Crafts, and then Sharila Kuhn Bonfield, who is a former Madison resident and an artist, have kind of been working together on a proposal, which again was in the council packets. So we're just going to very quickly go through what this is about and what our goal is. It's a combination of working with the schools. We have 100% support from the school administration. Many of the teachers and principals have already emailed that they're on board, and then it's going to culminate in a community event. So I'm going to turn it over to Kenesha, who is going to address our very exciting PowerPoint here. Oh, is Kenesha there?
Yes, I'm here. Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, council members, for having me here and allowing me to have a part of your platform to promote this project. So the project, as Deb said, came out of the community conversations group that met a few times over the summer. And we brought up the idea of a mural and thinking of where could we have that in town in a space where people could come together and really have a cathartic moment, given all of the racial tension and just that huge spotlight shown on racial injustice. For me in particular, when thinking about this and this project and how meaningful it would be, as Deb said, I am a Madison resident, but I actually went through Central, went through Madison Junior School, and graduated Madison High School in 1999. So I'm a Madisonian, true and true. It has a special place for me. But as a Black immigrant, there were some pockets I still felt like I didn't belong, or just a sense of, misplaced. So when community conversations came up, I went in just really wanting to know why and what the conversation was in the community. And so to be able to offer this project to teachers, which is the first phase of the project, where we can learn about how Blacks have impacted Madison and the nation, I think would be meaningful for all students, but especially those who are usually underrepresented. So what we've been doing for the past few months is researching, and we found out many wonderful members of Madison that have contributed so well to what this town is and has always been. I know you all know about Don Newcomb, but also Bill Primus was someone that we would love to highlight too. And I know that he was a council member for a long time and did such great work, and his fingerprints are all over the town, yet there's so many that might not even know. So we would be offering many stories like that to our students so that they can continue being thankful of what a wonderful town this is, and learning stories that they might have not known about before, hence the name Hidden Figures of Madison and Morris County. As we know, many of these people have impacted not only Madison, but our nation, like Dr. Kelsey. And so the second event would be a community event that would be held at the new Madison Community Arts Center, where it would be a community outreach. So we kind of shifted our thought of a mural to something that's a little bit more palatable, not something big, but actually having window displays of the same stories that I just shared with you. And we collaborated with Sharilla Bonfield, who's also a Madison High School alumni, and she already did a community outreach. So on your screen, you see her. She did it in Brooklyn, where the community was able to come in, and she offered an art space for even the youngest of citizens that were there, that they could express and really heal from what they had witnessed over the summer. So we're hoping to do it in the same way, but also share all of the wonderful points of Madison that many may not know. So Deb, if you could go to the next slide. So again, thank you for your time. If you would like to give to this project in any way, you can visit our wish list, and the information is right there on the screen. And if you have any questions or you have the desire to jump on board and help us in any way, you can contact us at the email that is also listed at the bottom of the screen. And I look forward to hearing about your support. And if you don't, we hope to see you on June 5th, where you can learn more about all of the wonderful people that have contributed to this amazing community.
And this PowerPoint will be up so that people can click on this Hidden Figures wish list. One of our goals is to not add to the burden of teachers who are dealing with kind of pandemic craziness as far as teaching goes. So we will be supplying all of the information at different grade levels. We've given sample lesson plans that are, if they want to participate but don't have time to come up with something, here's something you can do. And we are going to supply them with all the materials so that way they have everything they need and can learn from this great history. I'm finding out things. Madison had a drum and bugle corps. Who knew? Probably a lot of people, but a lot of us don't. So finding out that sort of thing and encouraging the discussion, and they will be on display at the Community Arts Center and the windows of the METC Annex. And we're working with the Chamber of Commerce and the DDC to get businesses involved. That's still in development of exactly how we are going to do this, but we want to make this a huge community-wide event. Hopefully COVID restrictions will be a little looser, that we can pull off the event in June to the best degree possible, but we will be doing some sort of celebration. And just to give you an example, 2 of the English teachers at the high school have already decided they're taking Dr. King's speech from Drew, and they're going to have students take pictures from that event and some audio recordings, and they're going to do some dramatic readings along with it, and they're going to perform the day of the event. So if you have any questions, Kanisha and I are happy to answer them, but we're just looking for the support of the council towards this event.
Thank you. Great presentation. I think it's a great idea. And as you pointed out, there's as Kanisha pointed out, the famous names that such as Don Newcomb, but Bill Primus, who Austria and I knew, and was the first African-American elected to the council and was part of the Urban League, truly made an impact in this town. And you talk about Martin Luther King. Dr. Martin Luther King at Drew was certainly a part of this town, and Sergeant Bill Hagan's father of a good friend of mine who escorted, who's the first Black sergeant in our police department, who was escorting Dr. King on that day. Just plenty of stories. And for those that might have missed it last week in the Star Ledger, I think Thursday or Friday, article about Plainfield had done a Hidden Figures project, and part of it told the story of this couple. I believe the woman was a teacher in the Plainfield school district in the 1960s. I forget what her husband did, but she realized that the Black schools in Plainfield had different books than the white schools and so on. And so that story was told, and they are soon to open a new elementary school, which will be named in honor of these 2 people that may not have come out without them working on a Hidden Figures project. Other,
And just real quick, so people know, we're also talking, the Lassiter family has been in contact with us. The Burrows family has been in contact with us. I know we've had several families, thanks to, you're from Madison, which has actually served a fantastic purpose in this case, of providing us with great resources and first-hand stories of things that have been going on. So that will all be included as well.
excellent. Any other comments or? So right now, you're just looking for an endorsement from the council. So I have a motion to endorse this project on behalf of the borough government. John, the second.
Second.
Yep. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, that was unanimous.
Thank
Thank you very
you.
much. Thank you. Looking forward to it.
Thank you.
Now the moment we've all been waiting for. Jim is ready to go with our budget hearing, and we will be bringing up our department heads. As I told the staff earlier today, this is a time that we go into far more detail than most towns, and part of this process and what's important about today is not only the dollars, but probably more important is the accomplishments that happen in each of the departments. So they will be briefly talking about their accomplishments of the past year, their goals for the coming year, and any big changes in the budget. And leading off is Russ Brown. But Jim, your comments? Start.
As you said, we'll keep it crisp, and I assume Russ is on.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay. Good evening, Mayor Conley and members of council. It's nice to see everyone. My name is Russ Brown, and I'm the construction official here in Madison. I'm responsible for the building department. The building department is made up of 9 employees, 5 full-time and 4 part-time. And we're responsible for processing and issuing permits and conducting the various inspections for both Madison and Chatham. One of those employees is a full-time maintenance man. As you may or may not know, that we manage a lot of the maintenance at Hartley Dodge and some of the other construction projects throughout the borough. On this slide here, we tried to just provide a snapshot of how the year went. I was kind of pleasantly surprised, given the year that we had, how well things went. Just to give you an idea, our revenues are down by about 75,000. The inspections are down by about 350, but the overall permits were up by 50. So we should be seeing the revenues for that in 2021. Oprah stayed about the same. For us, the Oprahs are the buying and the selling of the houses. So it seems like, it's kind of business as usual as far as the sales go. If we go to the next slide, Jim. On this one, we tried just to highlight some of the activities that we did. I wanted to point out some of the things that maybe you folks don't know that we do. The conflict of interest. The conflict of interest, if a member of council or an administration does a project on their home, we can't do the inspections. Anyone that has control over our budget, we can't do inspections for. So we have to farm that out to another town. And the surrounding towns have the same problems. So we kind of wash each other's hands, and works out good, keeps us busy, but it's not a bad thing. During the pandemic, one of the things I'm most proud of is our ability to maintain the services for the borough. The bulk of my crew came in. We didn't miss any time. We were actually able to outfit some unused space in the Hartley Dodge building to kind of separate our inspectors from the administrative staff. The inspectors, we felt, were out in the homes and the public, and were probably a bigger threat to our staff, and just tried to separate enough that, heaven forbid, we did have a problem, that we would be able to maintain business. During that time, we actually provided some services for some surrounding towns, for the municipalities that couldn't or wouldn't come in, to enable them to continue to sell their homes or close out projects. So that was a benefit that I was proud that Madison was able to provide for our neighbors. We could flip our goals going forward are to maintain just that. We've got some larger projects coming up. There's some discussion of a couple hundred unit project going in over on River Road in Chatham. That's looking like it's going to start this year. There's also redevelopment down by the post office. And as well as some larger projects on the books here from Madison. That's kind of an overview of what we have. Our budget is covered by the permit fees. We managed to do that again this year. And we do utilize the interns. We still have 2 interns that help us out quite a bit. We're losing one at the end of this week, and we're going to miss her dearly. But that's kind of the building department in a nutshell.
Thank you, Russ. And you kind of understated some of your work during the early stages of the pandemic. Many towns completely shut down and made it very difficult for any projects that are ongoing. And we pretty much kept going as best possible. Just as a clarification, in case someone didn't hear the whole thing, as you were sharing projects in Chatham Borough, that the post office redevelopment is Chatham Borough, not Madison. So.
Oh yes, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
I think I just want to make sure no one missed that. Any questions or Deb?
Just a couple of questions. You hit on a couple of them during the presentation, but I'll ask all 3 and then you can answer. So you talked a little bit about permanent revenues. It sounds like they were actually pretty good, all things considered. But have you started to see a change as the spring comes? Do we expect anything increasing a little bit more? I know a lot of people did home renovations because they were home, so it may have maybe a wash. With regards to providing the services to Chatham, what sort of benefit do we get as far as permit or other revenues out of them? And then finally, if you can just talk a little bit about what energy enhancements, as we all try to increase, or I guess decrease our carbon footprint and increase our sustainability, that are happening around HDM.
Sure. The permitting seems constant. The office is very busy. It's hard to put a number on it, but I would say we're going to stay equally as busy, if not an uptick. As far as the revenue from Chatham, we take in 100% of the fees. We give Chatham back 7.5%. So we take, that's a good partnership for us. And the third question, I'm sorry. Oh, the carbon footprint.
Yeah, the energy enhancements.
Right. We've been doing a lighting change. For a long time now, for the past 2 years. I would guess that we're probably 40% change to LED lighting. As bulbs go out, we get rid of the ballast, we take out the bulbs, and we put in new, more efficient LED lighting.
Great, thank you. And thank you for everything you and your folks have managed to continue to do with all of the COVID craziness. I know going into people's houses is not the most pleasant thing right now because of the worries on COVID. So thank you.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Austria, then Maureen.
Great. Hi, Russ. Yeah,
Hi.
Thank you for all that you do. I understand that you were responsible for all the hand dispensers in the Hartley Dodge Memorial. Can you explain for us the COA fees and how they're calculated and collected and what that means?
Okay, the COA fees themselves are calculated by the assessor. We're responsible for taking in that money. I can't issue a permit till the first 50% is collected, and I can't issue the certificate of occupancy until the balance is collected. But as far as the calculation goes, that's in the hands of the assessor.
Okay, and who are you collecting the fees from? Because I think that people don't understand that.
It comes from the developers or the builders.
The builders of individual homes?
Of individual homes, yes.
Okay.
It's basically if the expansion is large enough for us that COLA could kick in if you're just redoing a kitchen, the same footprint.
No, you have to increase your assessed value in excess of 50%, I believe.
Okay.
It's a significant addition would kick in the COA on an existing house. But if you were to demo a house and build a new one, COA would apply.
Okay. So that's the difference. Thank you.
You're welcome.
For the public, COA, Council on Affordable Housing, so those are affordable housing fees. And Maureen?
Thanks, Russ. You use the spatial data logic system to manage the construction permit process. How's that going?
It's a fantastic program. We've been working over the past number of years to bring more departments on. We've been using it for as long as I've been in Madison. That's the past 15 years.
And how you started taking credit cards this year too. How's that going?
That's actually been going really well. People are happy with that. That's been something that the public's been looking for a while now.
So it's working well.
Yes.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other comments or questions? Rachel?
Hi, Russ. On the topic of the spatial data logic permit portal, this is something that actually came up earlier tonight, this idea of how we might be able to track tree permits. And I'm wondering how customizable is the system, and could Madison add a component to that where the status of a tree permit could be seen online if a homeowner has requested a permit to remove a tree?
I'm not sure what category we would place that in, but I'm sure it can be tracked. I know Fran Boardman had laid out in one of our street overviews every borough tree. So it's very customizable.
I just bring this up because the arborist report noted that when residents around town see a tree being removed, sometimes it sets off a chain reaction of phone calls. Has this homeowner obtained a permit? Is this tree being removed legally under the ordinance? And sometimes it's a little bit of a fire drill to answer the inquiry. So I'm wondering if we could look into that in the future as a way to quickly answer questions like that arise. So thanks for letting us know that we have an option perhaps to build out another section.
And just as a quick note, probably 2 years ago now, we opened up our portal on the construction side. So if you were to see a job going on Woodland Avenue and you were curious if there's a permit, you as a resident could look that up and see that, yes, indeed, there is a permit, or, there's one actively being sought.
That's great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Thank you very much, Russ. We'll now
All right.
move on.
Thank you all for your
Yeah,
time. Have a
thank
great
you.
night.
Chief Lou.
Michael, are you able to bring up Chief Lou?
He's right there.
You got me?
There you are.
Yep, we got you.
Good. Good evening. You ready to go?
We're ready, Lou.
Yes. Yep.
Well,
your time has started.
okay. Oh God. We'll be talking about basically the three budgets I'm responsible for. We'll just get two of them out of the way real quick. My fire department vehicle maintenance budget, it's unchanged from 2020. We kept it flat. Can you? I don't know if you want to see me or not. Does that work? How's that? Any better?
There you go.
Okay. So my fire department vehicle maintenance budget, that's pretty much staying flat. We haven't changed or increased or modified that in any way. The public safety complex, same thing. We've just for the record, I am not changing those slides. I'm not touching any.
I'm trying to see if you have a slide specifically on the budget, Lou. Go ahead. When you get to 5-year capital, I'll get that slide.
Yep. You can keep it right there for now. And then with regards to public safety complex, again, it's keeping it flat. We're not changing it, modifying it, or increasing it. We're going to stay with 2020 numbers. And with my fire department operating budget, that's pretty much staying flat as well, with the exception of salaries, which I've asked for more money in overtime to compensate for some additional training and for training that we missed out doing in the year 2020. With that, we can move on to our call breakdowns that you see the slide up over there. You can see, even though COVID had an impact on us, our call numbers pretty much stayed the same. We went down a little bit on the fire side and up a little bit on the EMS side, but our numbers pretty much stayed the same and consistent for the past 8 years. The EMS line that you see is only the EMS calls that the fire department has responded to. It's not the total EMS calls that they respond to. We only track what we get involved with when we work with them. You go to the next slide. Fire prevention and inspection, COVID did play a little bit of an impact or a big impact on that portion of what we do, but we were still able to, Captain Nunn was able to get out and do a whole bunch of inspections that you can see up there. Resale and re-rentals, 246 of them last year, which is quite a bit. Fire safety programs. This year we put together, Captain Nunn and the group put together a virtual program just for kindergarten through 5th grade. And got it out to the teachers through the schools to give them some fire safety where normally we would go into the schools, and also with the seniors and the 8th, 7th, and 8th graders, but we didn't get an opportunity to do that this year. So next slide. Some notable events from 2020. Again, COVID-19, that was a very notable event for all of us. And we in the fire department had to really do some changes in the way we deliver our business. We had it in the career division, we changed schedules around back in March so that people wouldn't work together to try and contain ourselves from each other. So we wouldn't, if one got it, we wouldn't contaminate the whole department. We also had to start using PPE in a whole different way. And the picture you see there in the top left, it's one of the firefighters in the early stages. We were kind of laxed in COVID PPE as everybody else was. So we had to use what we had, and that's a Tyvek suit with complete encapsulation. But in dealing with COVID patients, that's what we had to do. And the guy stepped up and did it. We also were busy with fires amongst the COVID. COVID didn't care. We had fires. A couple of the notable ones that we had, the two back in September, one on Del Barton Drive and one in Alexander in the lower left-hand corner, which was a pretty dramatic one, both on the same night. Those took place, and a lot of mutual aid and a lot of good team efforts to put all those out. We also had a garage fire on Kings Road earlier on in the year. We responded 13 times out of town to various municipalities, not to any one, but to all our mutual aid departments around us to help them out. And then we also did the Santa and Bunny runs with Geraldine to kind of bring a little bit of cheer and happiness to the community by riding around with Santa Claus and the Easter Bunny during this crazy year. Next slide over there. Some accomplishments for 2020. We added 2 new volunteers, but we lost 2. We replaced 1 retired firefighter, and we still have 2 replacements to go. We took delivery of our new trailer and installed and outfitted it with our equipment and shelving and all. We finalized the new rescue pumper that hopefully we'll take delivery of the remainder of the year. Did some improvements to the EOC, and we actually were. As Maureen announced, we did get awarded a second grant last year. So we got two FA AFG grants totaling $56,000 and change for a reimbursement for COVID-related supplies for the borough. We applied for and got our 700 megahertz trunk radio license. Moving forward with that. And we finally switched all our copper telephone lines over to our T1 service fiber line coming in, which will give us a significant annual savings of about $15,000 a year by doing that. So some pretty good accomplishments for the year. Some goals, always trying to get more and more volunteers. We can never have too many of them. In the department, also want to hire and replace 2 recently retired firefighters. Promote 2 lieutenants. We're in the process of going through an exam process now to get those promotions done. Make up for lost training in 2020. That really impacted us a lot. We lost because we couldn't be together on a regular basis. We did little pocket trainings, a lot of virtual trainings, but getting together and practicing our craft didn't happen as often as we wanted. We didn't do any live burn training at the academy. Very little extrication training. So goals for 2021 is to ramp up training so we can get a lot more proficient, and also again take delivery of our new engine rescue pumper and get that in service hopefully the end of the year. Continue to work on our radio system. And we secure an AFG grant for radio equipment, which we applied for recently with the Madison Ambulance Squad. We did it as a joint venture. Hopefully between the two of us, we'll be able to get that grant. So next slide. Capital budget for 2021, it's pretty lean. Only two items. We'll continue to replace 3 or 4 pieces of turnout gear, bunker gear, coats, helmets, boots as new firefighters, and replacing the older stuff. And there's 25,000 set aside once the capital budget's approved to rebuild the pump on our 1998 engine. Over the past, we're required to check and test our pumps every year annually by an outside agency. The past 5 years, when we look back at all the testing results, her pumping performance was falling off the chart. It wasn't meeting her standards. So it's probably wouldn't pass this year. So we put money in the budget for a total rebuild this year, and she should pass her test. Next slide. And then finally, we are a combination fire department. I have the unique honor of commanding both career and volunteer personnel, oil and vinegar, as I sometimes say. As long as we keep things busy and moving, we kind of work together. But we have a really good group of guys, both on the career side and on the volunteer side. This year, we celebrate our 140th anniversary as a fire department, and we also celebrate Geraldine's 100th anniversary, or 100th birthday this year. She'll be 100 years old. So hopefully with towards the end of the year, we can have a little party for her as well. Our present staffing levels, we're at 28 total personnel. Should be at 14. We're presently at 12 in the career division and 16 in the volunteer division. And the breakdown of that 16 is right below. Only 8 of that 16 are capable of actually doing structural firefighting. The other 8, due to physical limitations or age, they just work in a supporting role, or they're new firefighters. They don't have any experience whatsoever. And of course, we're always looking for and forward to new volunteers. I also wanted to make a couple quick comments about an article that, before we get into questions, that was recently published on Madison Patch on Friday regarding the fire department. I just wanted to clarify some of the information or misinformation that was in that article. The title of the article should have read, "Madison Fire Chief hopes to maintain, not increase, career staffing and increase volunteer staffing." The statement of comparing Madison with Parsippany and Chatham is like comparing apples to oranges. A much more realistic comparison would be to compare Madison to Morristown, Morris Township, Summit, Milburn, or Westfield. Madison residents voted years ago to have a fire department with career personnel around the clock. It is all about a delivery of service and response time. Whether you are a career or volunteer firefighter, you are a professional. Only some are paid and some are not. The level of service and response time is a dramatic difference between the two types of departments. Madison has an excellent response time of 3 to 4 minutes, which makes a huge difference in our ability to save life and property. The statement about a new fire truck in the article that we recently purchased was definitely incorrect. The correct purchase price of the new fire truck that is on order is $820,979,000, not $1 million that was stated in the article. The article also neglected to clarify that the $820,979,000 fire truck is replacing 2 fire trucks with one, a 1990 31-year-old pumper and a 1995 26-year-old rescue truck are being replaced with one. Combining the 2 trucks into one is saving approximately $350,000 to $400,000. Saving was also made possible by us purchasing a $35,000 trailer in 2019. Trailer carries all our confined space and trench rescue equipment. The trailer was completed and outfitted with shelving, mounting brackets for all our specialized rescue equipment carried in the trailer by our career firefighters, saving thousands of dollars if we had to hire a vendor to do it. Some new equipment is also being purchased for the new fire truck with an approximate cost of $80,000 from an existing 2019 capital budget. The article also stated that, quote, "residents' health and safety is our top priority. And with the combination paid career and volunteer department, we feel that we are ahead of the 35 other towns in Morris County who solely rely on volunteers to respond to community needs, unquote. This statement is only true provided both career and volunteer divisions are both adequately staffed. I appear before you tonight to tell you that they are not. For our combination department to work and deliver the services that Madison residents have come to know and expect, proper and full staffing must be maintained in both divisions. Our department has had 3 retirements in the career division since January of 2020, the most recent being January of 2021. Only one of these 3 retirements have been replaced. Compounding our lack of manpower in the career division is our lack of trained firefighters in the volunteer division. We have been and continue to ask any Madison residents interested in becoming a volunteer firefighter to join. If anyone is interested, then go to madisonfd.com for more information. We just lost a fully trained volunteer firefighter last week as he took a job as a career firefighter with the Dover, New Jersey Fire Department. He was first on our hiring list. However, due to our inaction to move on hiring process, we lost an exceptionally good candidate and a fully trained volunteer. As Madison's fire chief, I am sounding the alarm. We need firefighters. We need 2 in the career division now to fill the gaps, at least 25 more in the volunteer division. I have been asking to the point of begging for replacement career firefighters. Our call volume is consistently high and our ranks are dangerously low. Madison needs trained firefighters to continue to provide life and property saving services to our residents. Without them, the high level of fire protection services that Madison residents have come to know and expect will be reduced. Inaction is not a solution to this problem. I thank you, and I'd be happy to answer any of your questions.
Thank you, Chief. Obviously, it is the role of this body is to make these decisions and to make sure that Madison is maintained as a top community. So thank you for your comments. Questions or other comments from Ostry and then Deb?
Thank you, Lou. Thanks, Chief. Okay, so I read that article too. The mayor and council received an email from someone and said, you're not doing enough to help with the volunteers. Do you have ideas of what the council and mayor can do to attract volunteers? I mean, you and I've discussed this many times. You know, both Maureen and I have, been your liaison, and we say, look, we need volunteers, but what else can we do to help get volunteers into this department? Because obviously you need them and you want more of them. So that's number 1. And then number 2, my question is how do the volunteer and the paid staff interact together, when they go to a fire? I mean, I think the bottom line is you're saying that, you really have to have the career staff because the career staff have that much more training in order to successfully put out a fire. But what's the role of the volunteers and the interaction between them at a fire?
I'll take your second question first. The role of each. If you roll back one slide, Jim, if you could. That picture you see to the right.
Mm-hmm.
When we're on the fire ground, we're one department. The career and volunteer doesn't even come into play. Our roles and responsibilities are basically all the same. The only primary difference is the career guy is responsible for the operation of that apparatus to ensure that water's flowing, the aerial's running, and the equipment that's being utilized on or off that truck. But when it comes to the nuts and bolts, the firefighting portion of it, both are equally trained with the exception of the EMT requirement, but both have gone through fire school. If you look in that photograph, those 2 gentlemen standing there, Jay Gilmore and Art Dunn, one's career, one's volunteer. We don't label ourselves as different. We're all the same. We're one team, and we work together as one team. The one thing I don't tolerate is us and them. It's always we in our department. We work together as a group. As far as getting additional ones, what can the mayor and council do? I don't know. I don't know how you can motivate or get someone to come in and want to risk their lives for nothing. And I don't say that sarcastically. I say that for real. Our pool of people to pull from is restricted to the town of Madison. We expanded out to about 2 miles beyond our borders, but because of the way our system works, I can't have a volunteer respond here, from 10, 15 minutes away. It doesn't make it work as the way the system is designed for volunteers. So the pool to pull from is restricted and limited to just the, so to say, the borders of Madison or the very close proximity to. I will say this, one of the attractions to get volunteers here is they know if they're hungry enough, they know there's a promise or a possibility of a career here. If they stay long enough or hang around long enough, if they love the job, and most that are here do love the job. But I don't know how else, short of knocking on everyone's door. We were talking with Maureen when we met with her with a couple of volunteers last month. We're going to be putting out lawn signs that say, volunteers needed, similar to like political signs, just small square ones that you can put on your lawn with just a simple message, volunteers needed, with a website to go to for more information. Beyond that, going door to door, I don't know what else we can do.
So my recollection is also, Chief, that there are funds in the 2021 budget to hire one career firefighter. And the fireman who just left, because it's our policy across the board, it doesn't affect just you, but everybody. Our policy is that, he's retired in January, but he's on the payroll till October. So our normal process is not to put anybody else on the payroll until that person is off the payroll. But that there is one firefighter in your budget for 2021.
If there is, we had 2 retire in 2020. Brian Allen retired in January of 2020. And was off the books in late May, and Brian Tappan left in mid-May and was off the books in October. So we still have only replaced 1 in 2020, and then Kevin Williams retired in January, and he's on the books until September.
But didn't we get someone back from the construction office, came back to the fire department, is working full-time now in the fire department?
No.
Oh,
We never. That's someone's misinterpretation of the situation. The gentleman you're talking about is Bruce Barrios, who was the fire subcode official.
Right.
He was a firefighter that worked out of the building department, occasionally doing the inspections and the plan review work. We never not had him. He was always a fireman that did inspections. When he gave up that title of subcode, we still need the firefighting body.
Mm-hmm.
During the daytime, Monday through Friday, 8 to 4:30, I can honestly say we do not have volunteers to show up. That's reality. And when we do, it's a bonus. I can't count on it. I can't rely on it. The guys that we need to replace, the 2 that need to be replaced, the one from last year and Lieutenant Williams' replacement this year, are daytime, Monday through Friday, 8 to 4:30 firefighters. That's also the time when we're backing up the ambulance squad on a regular basis. We've taken on so much, and we don't have. I need the people. I need the bodies. I don't know how to say that. I really don't. And that just brings us to a point where we can get started. It doesn't get us to a sustainable number, but at least it gives us an opportunity to make a difference. God forbid if there is a life that needs to be saved.
How many career firefighters then are on duty during the daytime? How does that work?
There are 9 firefighters right now that do rotation, and they're on a shift work. So there's always 2 on that rotation shift, and then Monday through Friday, 8 to 4:30, we normally have 2 additional ones, plus myself and Captain Nunn.
Okay.
So there would be 6.
Okay. also your request for overtime is because of this situation.
In part, yeah. And I'm chewing through overtime now. Being down two, I have no flexibility whatsoever. When I go on vacation, or Captain Nunn goes on vacation, or Brian Castano, who's one of the guys that works days with us, when he goes on vacation, we have to cover it with overtime because we don't have enough people around during the day.
So I mean, this is obviously this is something we care about because this is one of the services that we really pride ourselves in, as you said in the beginning. But like, how do other towns deal with this? I mean, they must have the same problem. Like, how about Chatham? How many people do they have on during the day? How many people do Florham Park have on the day? Are they in the same boat that we are? Is this just unique to Madison?
It all comes down to what each community wants or expects as far as response time and coverage. It's not hard to figure out, and I don't like to throw stones at my neighbors because they do a gallant job. But during the days, weekdays when there's a fire call, it takes more time for them to get the engine or the truck out the door than it does compared to Madison or any other department that's got career people sitting in the firehouse. That just stands to reason. And those minutes, that fire gets a good head of steam, and sometimes the small fires in Madison, you put it in another town, it becomes a huge fire because of the lack of, or the slower response. They're pretty much in the same predicament we are.
So, I mean, do you see then, I mean, because clearly the volunteers numbers have diminished. So, for various reasons, there, more and more people do not work in their hometown. And as you're seeing, daytime help from volunteers is non-existent. So do you think that moving forward, we have to look towards more sharing, a more standardized mutual aid as a possibility of helping this situation?
The short answer is yes. I mean, regionalization is something that's probably going to happen, probably not in my lifetime, but it's almost a direction that it's going in. But that's something that doesn't get figured out at my level. That's something that happens way above my pay grade. Whether it happens on a county level or a regional level, or all the mayors sit down and throw their money into the hat and split up the pie. We're working within the framework that's been in existence for a long time. We do mutual aid. We have mutual aid agreements with every department in the county that we all agreed upon and signed quite a few years ago to help each other out. But during the daytime, there's a shortage of volunteer firefighters. You listen to the scanner, and sometimes there's 3 and 4 tone outs for a department just to get one piece out the door. So Madison is very fortunate that we can get people out, but without a proper number or a good number to work with, we're just getting one piece out the door with one person doesn't help.
So if I recall, there are 39 towns in Morris County. How many towns actually have career firefighters? How many
on staff?
Like how many towns have career firefighters out of 39?
There's no one town in Morris County that's 100% career, with the exception of Picatinny Arsenal,
okay,
which is a federally run or group. But you have towns like Morris Township, Morristown, Cedar Knolls, Whippany, Dover. They all have career people on staff running a hybrid system very similar to ours, which is a combination department.
So that's six towns out of 39 have hybrid systems.
Correct.
Okay. So they're all struggling. I assume you all get together and talk about this. And has anybody come up with some unique ways to help the situation? And
well, we all help each other. I mean, mutual aid today is the norm. I mean, that fire that we had on Alexander, where we had 7 or 8 towns helping us, the same fire 25, 30 years ago, maybe Fulham Park would have been there
Mhm.
because of all of us having enough manpower. But mutual aid, it gets there eventually, but on the initial hit, you know, that first 5-10 minutes will make the difference for the next few hours, depending on the fire and what's going on. And now we're doing EMS. I mean, during COVID, there was a time our ambulance squad was hurting with their older personnel that took leaves of absence because of the threat of getting COVID, where there were gaps where they couldn't fill coverage for shifts. Fortunately, the county of Morris was able to help us out with an ambulance for coverage more than what they do on the normal Tuesdays. And then there was the Friday nights. There was, I believe, 8 Friday nights where the ambulance squad had no crew whatsoever. The county couldn't help out. And I sat down and talked with Ray, and he gave me permission. And my guys came in, on overtime, but they covered the town well above what they've ever done before on a regular basis for almost 8 weeks, providing an ambulance for anyone that needed it in Madison. So the average citizen, there was always a coverage going on.
Right.
So, I mean, we step up to the plate when we have to. We honestly
I know you do. I know you do. Thank you. Thanks so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Any other, Deb? And hopefully we can move on to the next.
I'll try and be quick, but a couple of thoughts. Only one related to what Ashu's been asking. I know when I was a student at Drew, they would pull EMTs that were New Jersey residents, but they were at Drew, and when they were at Drew, they would work for the ambulance corps or volunteer for the ambulance corps. Is there a way, and I don't know if that's something that fire departments can do because I don't know the training, but is there a way that if I were volunteering in West Orange, because that's where I live, and I come to Drew, that while I'm a student at Drew on campus, I could volunteer from September to December and from January to May for Madison?
The short answer is yes, and we've actually had that, not regularly, but we had a Drew student. Oh God, his name escapes me. It was back in the 90s, but he was out on Long Island. He was a firefighter out there, and when he was here in Madison, living on campus, he would respond here. But because of the age, your average height or college student is 18 to 22. In that time period, they're either going to school and not going to fire school, or going to fire school and not going to college. It's kind of hard to juggle both those careers or those courses at the same time. So getting a trained firefighter at age 18 or 19 isn't really practical. I think the guy that was from Staten Island was either a junior or a senior, and he had already had his training, in his earlier years.
Okay. And then the last thing related to volunteers, and then I have a question on one of your charts. On the 8 support volunteers where you have to include the 2 new volunteers, how long does it take them to potentially go into onto the suppression side to help those numbers at least?
They I would say probably about 3 to 5 years.
Okay, so they're in that support only for a while. All right, so
well, that just makes them eligible to go in there. They've got to get experience,
right?
To go to it, to become seasoned and good, because we aren't that busy yet. We do as much live training as we can at the fire academy and all. And our academy in Morris County is probably one of the best ones in the state. When they come out of there, they've got a really good foundation, but until they get the confidence in themselves, and because everything is a team effort, you've got to get confidence in your coworker or your partner. It takes time, so 3 to 5 years to get them to feel comfortable is good. And we're bound by state law too. Once they complete firefighter 1, which is the foundation for their schooling, they can't do anything unless they're under direct supervision of someone who has firefighter 2 or greater. So even though they go to the academy for 1, once they come out, they're still green, and they still have to be under really direct supervision of someone of higher schooling or training, so that they don't get hurt or hurt somebody else.
Okay, thanks. And then just a couple of quick things. I was super glad to see that virtual programs for the elementary school kids were able to happen. I know the boys always liked that when, it was live, and hopefully it was good. And of course, Easter and Santa were fantastic. Two questions. On the one about the calls, the chart about the calls, there was a note that 35 calls were fire related, the 100 code. And what else? I don't need obviously specifics, but generally, what are some of the other things that fall in that number to bring it to 724? And then the other question is, I know it's not till next year, but there's $100,000 for the access ramp to Route 24. What is that?
Okay. The other calls are everything else. It's I smell something. My basement is flooded. I've got water leaking through my light fixture in my bedroom. I didn't open the chimney flue when I lit my chimney and my house is full of smoke. I burnt food. And that was an uptick in COVID, during COVID. We did get a lot more burnt food calls, but it's everything else that we go to. My smoke alarm is chirping. I think I smell gas. So it's everything. If someone has a problem, they call us. The Route 24 one, the section of Route 24, we've been trying to gain access eastbound without having to go all the way to Columbia Turnpike. So in talking with Ray Cody's cousin and a few of the Route 24 people that were here when the mayor hosted that meeting, we were given a verbal approval, that's all, to put an emergency access ramp behind the MRC to gain access. The most of our calls have been in those S turns. When you come to Ridgedale Avenue, it S's, it swerves left and right before you straightens back out at Greenwood. So instead of, for us, having to go all the way to Columbia Turnpike, or even Florham Park having to go all the way to Columbia Turnpike, we could jump on there and get quicker access or easier access to the Route 24.
Got it. Thank you so much.
Yep.
All right. Thank you, Chief. And
thank you.
I think you helped everyone understand your needs. And as we've been saying, we're still early in the process. And speaking of process, what we'll do is we'll finish off public safety with Chief Madison, and then we will take, since I think we're going to be pushing our 11 o'clock hour, we will take a very quick 5-minute IO break. Chief?
Good evening, everyone. I promise to keep this quick. I know you're under time constraints tonight. It's a pleasure to be here to present the overview of the Madison Police Department and my 2021 budget. I know lately we've been speaking about reducing our carbon footprint, and our opening slide there, I just want to show that is one of our new hybrid patrol vehicles. We introduced 2 of those hybrid vehicles in 2020, and they seem to be working out well. If you could, the second slide. Okay, this slide depicts our 3 divisions within the Madison Police Department, patrol being the backbone of our operations. Those are the men and women that respond to our calls for service. Investigation is our detective bureau, which conducts all follow-up investigations. They conduct any type of background investigations and anything else that's asked of them. And third is our support services that pretty much handles everything else. When we are fully staffed, we have approximately 85 total employees. That consists of sworn officers, civilian personnel, as well as our volunteers to include school guards. As with the fire department, we are down several officers due to retirements and things of that nature that I will be looking to replace in this calendar year. Next slide. This slide shows our table of organization, which is the line of authority from the chief on down. It also shows the span of control, which is basically the number of subordinates that any one supervisor can effectively supervise. So that's what that slide depicts. Our next slides, I believe it's the next 3 slides, just show some of our calls for service As you can see, our calls for service are down slightly in 2020 due to COVID. But these calls for service is just anything that we send our officers on to handle. So that's that's shown in that slide. Motor vehicle stops are down 53%. You know, it's understandable with COVID that we were trying to keep the public as well as our officers safe. Trying to keep, you know, trying to reduce that public interaction when you know, we didn't have to, you know, make those interactions. As you can tell on the last two slides, the traffic tickets, parking tickets were down as well, over 60%. Go to the next slide. Okay, once again, one area on this slide shows a 79% increase in motor vehicle theft and thefts alike. This problem is not unique to Madison. It's actually plaguing our entire area. We have gangs of thieves coming into Madison, just fanning out in the neighborhood, checking vehicles for open doors, valuables in cars. I can't stress enough the necessity for our residents to lock their vehicles. This is just, like I said, it's plaguing our area, and you know, we just need to reinforce the fact that our residents need to lock their vehicles. Down to juvenile complaints, it's up slightly this year. I don't know if, once again, if the COVID situation has any direct impact on that juvenile number. The next slide, just one area, our overtime was decreased by approximately 10%. I'm hoping to reduce that in 2021 as well. 2020 community outreach, as you could understand, it was a very difficult year for us. We try to do as much community outreach as we can, but obviously it was pretty tough with the pandemic. But here was a few things that we were able to still to do for 2020. We added, as Chief Lou spoke about earlier, we did 209 COVID birthday parades along with the fire department. We assisted with Operation Easter Bunny and Operation Santa. We all know that our Christmas parade was canceled this year, so the fire department, police department actually visited every street within Madison. I think that program really went well. We were still doing our child safety seat program, Pink Patch, and our child ID program. 2020 accomplishments. So we instituted an online reporting system, basically to help, once again, limit police public interactions. It seems to be working well. Basically it's a buffer, once again, between the public and our officers. I mean, obviously, if there was a serious situation, people were able to come into police headquarters and speak with an officer. But this online reporting system took care of those smaller reports just online, keeping everyone safe. We also transitioned to a new online firearm system, which is known as the FAR system, which is run through the New Jersey State Police. Last year, we processed approximately 290 applications, which was up from 116 in 2019. The next area was our reaccreditation, which I am very proud of. We achieved the reaccreditation status, and for the second time in a row, our on-site assessors had 0 concerns. So we pretty much had a perfect assessment, which I am really proud of. Our officers did a great job. The accreditation process is very time consuming, and our accreditation manager, Lieutenant Longo, he did a phenomenal job with that. We held a promotional exam and filled a vacant sergeant position. We increased the number of cameras in town and ALPR points. This number is going to increase hopefully in the future. That's the automatic license plate readers. Also, which I explained in the beginning slide, we implemented 2 hybrid patrol vehicles, reducing that carbon footprint. We maintained a relatively healthy workforce during the pandemic. As Chief Lou explained, we modified our operating procedures and protocols, trying to keep our officers away from each other. Because if one officer if one officer contracted COVID, I mean, it pretty much wiped out the whole patrol squad. So we did a pretty good job keeping our workforce pretty safe. And lastly, we institute an online use of force reporting system, which was mandated through the New Jersey Attorney General's office. Slide. 2021 goals. Once again, I'm going to increase the number of hybrid patrol vehicles, increased that to 4. We actually have 2 on order as we speak. I'm in the process of filling vacant corporal positions. What this does is it builds future leaders of the department while reducing overtime. We always have to have a supervisor on duty. So when the sergeant is either on vacation or taking a night off, that corporal will fall into that sergeant position and supervise that squad. In 2021, I hope to hold another sergeant, lieutenant, and captain exam to fill those any vacancies that we maybe have forthcoming, and to establish a list for future years. I would also, as Chief Lou indicated, I would like to fill vacancies within our patrol division. We're down 3 officers at this time, and also fill a vacancy in our records division. Right. Okay. As we know, the police department operates under budget 25-240, which deals with salaries and wages, equipment, and associated maintenance. Presenting this year's budget relatively flat, with increases in contractual obligations, which is negotiated through the collective bargaining agreement. So we're pretty much, remaining flat for this year, except for those contractual obligations. And the final slide just shows the 5-year capital improvement plan. The majority bulk of the money going to be spent in the next 5 years is dealing with security camera and access controls, which is basically a borough-wide project, as well as the borough-wide radio system, which is going to be spread out over several budgets throughout the borough. And I hope I kept it brief enough for you, and hopefully I can answer any questions that you might have. And if I do not have any of those answers, I'll be sure to get them to you as quick as I can.
Right, Ostrey?
Yeah, hi, Chief. I guess I have a couple of questions.
Okay.
One is regarding staffing. You said you're down 4 uniformed officers. Is that correct?
3 right now. I have 1 that left for another department, and I have 2 others, 1 retired and 1 that left under other circumstances. I have 1 facing mandatory retirement as we speak, and possibly another 2 going to be retiring this year.
So, okay. So right now, 4 definites.
Yeah.
Okay. And then I know one of your goals, I think from last year, was to try to achieve more diversification in your staff. What steps are you doing to try to diversify your staff?
I've met with I have Lieutenant Plumstead, who's reaching out to our local churches or universities. We're trying to increase our diversity within the police department. So we're reaching out to those entities that try to gain interest in our department. I would like to hold a test, to be able to hire from within our community. I've spoken to Ray about that in the past, and hopefully we can accomplish that this year to try and open up to Madison residents.
Okay, but then we're responsible for the entire education of that person if we go that route, correct?
Correct. But the person is vested within our community. They have roots in our community. We've seen to run into a problem where we hire people from out of county. We hire them, we train them, outfit them. They stay with us a few years and they move to their own town. So I want to hire someone that's vested within our community and has roots that will stay here.
And
that's my goal.
Okay, so I do have a question in regard to that. How do we know that person's going to make it? Like, I know that when we go to the academy, we're usually very lucky because we're such a great town to be able to hire the top candidates from the academy. How do you judge, or how do you figure out if somebody who's homegrown is going to be able to go through the rigors of that program?
Well, it's just through the, interview process, the vetting process, background investigation, but, unfortunately, there is no,
Yeah.
foolproof formula.
Mhm.
We've had it before where you think someone's going to go through with flying colors and they don't make it. It's, you just do your best with the background and interview process that you can.
Okay. Thank you.
Deb?
All right, so you answered several of my questions, so my list got a little a little shorter. Jim, can you go to slide 5 with the annual statistics, please? So you addressed to a certain degree the theft in motor vehicle theft, and it is. I know it's all over, but is there anything specific we're doing to address that, increase patrols or anything to try and find a way to deal with that?
Yeah, we've done pretty well with wording a lot of it already. Obviously we can't be everywhere. We have, I believe it's 65 miles of roads. Our officers are out there, trying to have that omnipresent presence in the neighborhoods. But the best thing that we can do as a community is have our residents lock their doors. We've gone as far as doing social media posts at 9 o'clock to remind our residents to lock our doors. It sounds like, a silly thing, but
nope.
Unfortunately, these group of people, if they see, if they think a community is an easy target, they're coming back.
Right. And I know the FODs cause a problem too, because people leave them in the car. Glad to see it's significantly down, but what are use of force incidents?
Anytime an officer has to put their hands on someone, whether effectuating arrest, whether it's a medical call, maybe having to put someone in an ambulance, that was a little bit combative. It doesn't necessarily mean an officer striking a person. It could be just a person, like just an officer holding on to a person if a person is resisting.
Got it.
Use of
Juvenile complaints. I know you addressed that you, like I think most of us are assuming some of this is bored children in COVID looking for things to do, but what sorts of complaints are they? Do they tend to be more vandalism or loitering, or I know there was the throwing of the rocks and stuff on the ice rink?
Yeah, it's all things like that. It could be alcohol. There's a lot of, it covers all gamuts.
All right, and then on slide 6, Jim, the next slide, firearm applications. Is there any indication on why we went from a pretty consistent 100-ish to over 200 or to almost 300 last year? I know you don't know always, but
Me personally, I just think it's the people see the political climate, they get nervous, they think the government's going to take away weapons, and it actually increases people applying for firearms.
It's a statewide,
Yes.
if not countrywide.
It's not unique to Madison.
Got it. And I'm done. I got 3 more and then I'm done. Glad to hear about the corporals that'll help with overtime, and that on the job injuries are down. The outside job hours, which I believe are paid, I just want to make sure I understand it correctly and the public understands. They're paid by the outside, whoever's hiring you, whether it's PSE&G or whomever, but we get some of that money and then we can use some of that money to purchase things like the police cars.
Correct, and that's what I've been trying to purchase our vehicles with for several years now. It's actually been working out very well, but obviously, once again, due to COVID, outside jobs is way down. But they are that officer rate is paid by the outside contractors.
Right, so that means that then we don't have to pay those with taxes, and it looks like everything else is crossed out, so you already answered it. And thank you, of course, for all of the outreach. I know National Night Out was canceled twice this year or last year. Hopefully we can get it in this summer. But the Santa and the Easter Bunny are awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Maureen, and then Rachel.
Yes, thank you, Chief. How often do we get reaccredited?
Every 3 years.
And can you explain the online use of force reporting system?
It was mandated through the Attorney General's office. Before, we would just have to fill out paper forms, but now it's an online reporting system, which has been mandated. What the Attorney General wants to do is better track use of force throughout the state. So I think with that process, they're able to do a better job looking at the use of force incidents and better categorize it throughout the state.
Okay, so So that would be, we would, Deb said, putting arms on someone, that would be a use of force?
Correct. Anytime we have to physically restrain or hold someone, or sometimes, you know, a officer has to use force. Every officer that uses force has to use force. Will fill out one of those forms.
Okay. Thank you.
Rachel?
Hi, Chief. It's good to see you. Thanks for
Hi.
joining us.
Thank you.
I was looking at the line item for body cameras to be purchased in 2022. And I recall from one of our conversations last year that the Madison Police Department was one of the first departments to have car cameras in the region. And
Yes.
I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about the purchase of the body cameras and how they're used and how the department intends to use them and what the policies are regarding them.
Yeah, we were one of the first police departments in the county to go to an in-car system, and we've had that for quite a long time. We have had the body cameras for several years now, and the program has actually been working very well. It protects our officers, it protects the public, it keeps everyone on a level playing field. We did get a grant early on for those body cameras. Unfortunately, they're coming to the end of useful life, so they are going to be need to be replaced. Batteries, things of that nature, failed, equipment, you know, upgrades. But the program has worked very well. All of our patrol officers are required to wear them. They're required to, whenever they have any type of enforcement action, they have to be on. Our sergeants, myself, my lieutenants frequently do random searches of those videos to see how our officers are performing their job. I can honestly say we have great officers that are doing an outstanding job. And the program's great. And, you know, I'm very pleased with it.
Thanks, Chief.
All right, any other? Guess not. Thank you very much, Chief. So what we will, even though we are already approaching 10:30 and we will most likely go past 11 o'clock time frame, we will do the a 5-minute break. It is just about 10:28, so we will reconvene at 10:33. I will ask all part of our panelists to mute and turn off your video while you step away. All right, we have reconvened with virtually with all members still present. We will move on to the next one, and should be no more than 6 hours. We're moving along here. Apologize for the late night, but a lot of good information to cover. So Bob Bogle.
Good evening, Mayor.
Welcome.
You got everybody ready to go?
Yep.
Okay. Mayor and council members, hello, and good evening, and thanks for giving us a few minutes to talk about the Engineering and Land Use Services group. It was an interesting year for us last year. A lot of change. Obviously, we did a whole bunch of public hearings with Michael's assistance with the Zoom, and continued to do that throughout the year, and learned a few things about virtual meetings, as did the governing body. We also lost a couple of employees through Frank Russo and Ruth Hissey during the course of the year, which thank God they weren't lost to the pandemic, but they were lost to our staffing. And so we were able to replace Frank pretty quickly with the governing body and the administration support. I appreciate that very much. It helped make the year a complete one. And Dennis at this point is up and running with the planning and zoning boards, and doing a great job for us in terms of review for the theater project and several others that are moving along during the course of the year. So he will keep busy because he's also a licensed professional and can assist with capital projects as well. As far as the 2020 accomplishments were concerned, very good year for getting projects done last year. Strangely, the pandemic kind of helped us in terms of getting a lot of paving work out the door. Certainly the 4 major parking lots along Kings Road were able to be done quickly and easily without a whole lot of coordination on the public part. So we took advantage of that, spent the time and money, and put down quite a bit of asphalt in total between the road improvement and the road resurfacing projects. That's the reconstruction and the mill and overlay projects. In total on this slide, you'll see about $2.4 million worth of encumbrances that were expended in that regard. And in fact, we put down 34% more asphalt last year than we did in the previous year. So in terms of productivity, we actually got quite a bit of work on the street. So happy to report that. Despite the pandemic, it happened to be quite a good year for the construction and for third-party bids for the Borough of Madison. So congratulations to all on that one. As far as other projects are concerned, there was about $785,000 worth of additional funds. I think you have to go back a slide, Jim. Terrific. Nope, I'm sorry. Can you advance one? I think we somehow missed a slide for the group. Michael, can you go forward? Thank you. Okay, perfect. So with this other capital sources, we took money from both open space and water capital and general capital and got the recycling center completed, the Dodge Field Playground restroom building completed, and got Highland Ave water main replacement project done as well. And that about completed it for capital expenditures for the year. But again, very good year, probably $3 million worth of general capital or combined with other sources of funding were expended on the engineering and construction front. So good for us, good for Madison. As far as the Land Use Services Department is concerned, they also had a very good year. 630 zoning permits was up 28% from 2019. And I think that a lot of that reflects the fact that people were home and had more time to fill out zoning permit applications. But overall, Fran, without Ruth's help towards the end of the year, managed to get more work done than we had in the previous year, and probably more than we'll get done this year as well. It was quite a good year for us in terms of turning permit applications over. And we also added the tree permit processing onto that task list for Fran. And also, so she also completed 112 private tree applications, which you can see at the bottom of that slide. As far as our goals for next year, the Cook Avenue parking lot is right now in a utility mode where we're trying to get the utility plan finalized so we can put the entire bid package out for bid. We've received comments from the Environmental Commission and Sustainability on that project, and we've forwarded that over to our consultant, hoping that we get a full plan set by the end of this week, in fact. So I hope to have more to share on Cook Avenue parking lot with you all by next week. Anthony and Wayne Boulevard are reconstruction projects which we designed and put the documents together in-house. They are ready for advertisement this week. Kevin is looking at the bid specifications, make sure they meet up with the latest standards, and hopefully we can advertise that in the coming week as well. So that follows our early January, February appropriations. So we are on schedule to get those projects out and moving again. For the mill and overlay, obviously you know that we've already appropriated funds and awarded several contracts for those projects for this year. Woodland Ave is going to be one of them. Linden Lane is right off of Woodland. Independence Court, obviously down the other end of Woodland. And Barden and Serpico are dead-end streets. North Street has a section of it towards the high school, which has to be redone. And there's actually a small sidewalk project there, which has to be added onto that as far as the mill and overlay capital as well. So should be a reasonable, although modest compared to last year, road improvement program. What changes is Harley Dodge Memorial Plaza. Thanks to everyone's patience, we've been bidding for about 2 years, and we're all happy to report at this stage of the game that Harley Dodge Memorial Plaza has been awarded to Marilyn Garagusa, and we are currently pulling the construction contracts together with them and hope to break ground and get started so that during the 3 months of the summer, we can get a great deal of Harley Dodge Memorial Plaza finally all pulled together and restored as per our county grant applications from several years ago. Hopefully we can get those reimbursements before the end of the year, and I know everyone's really looking forward to that. If we're lucky, I suppose the East Wing could be dovetailed to the Memorial Plaza project. That still has some work that has to be done in terms of funding and partnerships. We have a draft set of plans and specifications, which are close to being complete. That is essentially prepared to be put out for bid as well. Although I believe that's going to be later in the summer or the fall, or perhaps even next year. One of the interesting things that we really have been looking forward to getting done, as well as the improvement of the trails at Madison Recreation Complex. There's a site remediation project which we have to bid initially, and that will be done this month in terms of advertising. And that work will be completed during the summer. And I'm hoping to have that entire trail done as a dovetail to the site remediation project as well. That is also a county funded project, and we hope to move forward with that quickly as the year progresses. Memorial Park, we just got the NJDEP permit in the mail from DEP on that, which is great news. We applied for it last September. And Frank Russo, when he was still with us, was working with Joe Mayanecki in order to get those permit documents in approvable form. I know Joe went back and forth with DEP half a dozen times in the past 6 months in order to get their okay, but finally that permit did come through. So that allows us some flexibility to do some more trail work this year if the money becomes available. So good news on that score. The last set of documents we're putting together in terms of in-house work is the Dodge Field playground documents, which will replace all the playground equipment at Dodge Field with ADA, handicapped accessible equipment for either for bidding later this year or next year. But getting the documents together is going very well, and I do have a draft which I can probably share with everyone towards the end of the month. So things are going well on that front. As far as 2021 capital project requests, the next 2 or 3 slides, which you can run through very quickly, Mike, show a number of departmental requests. The stormwater system is asking for $50,000, particularly for Below Woods, which we got an enforcement letter from the county after an inspection was done. So really that's kind of forced either a remedial work, filling grout voids in the bridge, and or applying for permits at DEP to actually get the complete bridge replacement done. That's where the majority of that money is going to be spent this coming year after it gets appropriated. So sanitary sewers also have a number of miscellaneous projects in terms of lining and pumps and basin maintenance. Something came up recently also with with I&I issues, which has to be addressed in the short term on sanitary source. So that money will be appropriated and spent in the coming year as well. Next slide. Public buildings, I think most of this you know about already, obviously with the plaza restoration and East Wing restoration. That is ultimately where we're going to concentrate all our improvements for this year. You can see Hartley Dodge documents kind of inset on the right-hand side of that slide, and an aerial overview of our great building and plaza in front of it. And the last one.
I just want to point out before we flip off this slide, Bob, that we are not going to be spending $1 million borough dollars on the East Wing restoration. The footnotes aren't on here, but we are looking to have grant funds and other sources to help us with that. Okay, Bob.
This is probably was covered in Ken's presentation at the last meeting to a certain extent, but since some of this is biddable project or third-party vendors involved, I guess they left it on my list. The recycling center, obviously, we got to advanced state of completion during the past year, and Ken wants to take that the next step in terms of getting a compactor put in at that location, and that'll essentially finish up the recycling center's work. And hopefully you can open it for a couple more days and really get it to be a fully used resource for the borough of Madison. I know I've gotten pretty good feedback on it to date, and I think the public really does enjoy using that facility. And I think ultimately it's going to make it a lot easier for Public Works to handle the recycling materials as well. What Ken also wants to do on site is to relocate some materials handling bins. We've been doing this for the past couple of years in terms of putting up block partitions throughout the yard, and also putting areas where we can store bulk materials for construction projects, pipe, and other materials. The whole yard, in terms of having the electric building there and various other storage components, is really starting to shape up. And one of the other things that I think Ken wants to do is finish up the security in terms of fencing in the perimeter of the yard. I know that was held off for a bit because we unsuccessfully bid the police shooting range building. Did not get awarded, and we kind of have to go back to the drawing board in order to reduce costs moving forward. And I think that's the reason that the fence actually wasn't completed at the corner of the yard there. But hopefully this year we can get to that and secure the yard as it was originally. So last and most importantly on the list is the Parks and Rec projects. Austria will admit, I'm sure she's been after me to get the trails projects moving and do more as far as Parks and Recs and open space. And hopefully we'll respond to that this year. As you can see in some of the insets on this slide, we got the paving done for a couple of basketball courts and in and around one of the operations buildings over at East Street, and improved that quite a bit. And I believe Zach's going to help us through recreation in terms of restriping, and Ken's going to help us with regards to basketball hoops and perhaps some perimeter fencing around those facilities and kind of finish those up. But what we spent most of the year last year doing was getting those ADA restrooms in an adjoining Dodge playground up and running. Wasn't entirely successful because we weren't able to close out the project, and we're still working with the general contractor to do that. We ran into a number of situations, liquidated damages issues, which were avoiding us from paying final bills and closing out those contracts. But we're working with the attorney this winter in order to get those cleaned up, and hope to have a fully functional building in the short term there over at Dodge Playground in preparation for the playground ADA improvements, which are coming in the coming year as well. Audrey's got a long list of great projects there, which she deserves credit for. And I hope to assist her as much as possible in the coming year, trying to get a lot of those knocked out of the way. So if anyone has any questions about all that, please feel free. I know it's late, and I won't hold it against you if there aren't any.
Okay, Austri?
I do. Well, thanks, Bob, for giving me all that credit. But no, I do think recreation is really important in the town of Madison. And we've got parks that we need to upgrade. But I do have a question regarding your road reconstruction project for 2021, and that's the Green Avenue bump outs. So I was walking along Prospect today, and one of the bump outs is completely destroyed by the plows. And I'm also, I've voiced my concerns for bike riders that those bump outs are really a pain in the neck.
Right.
So is there any chance that you've looked at alternative bump outs on Green Avenue that are the kind that Ben Wokowitz used to talk about, that are maybe a different pavement, a brick and painted differently, that serve the same purpose, but a rider can just ride through, but a vehicle will, slow down?
It's, I as eagerly await a reasonable alternative as you do, Austria. Dennis has been working on this for about a month now, and he has an actual PowerPoint presentation put together about all the options that we can use for the recent grant-funded project for Green Avenue. And I believe he wants to, although he didn't email it to me, I know he's pretty much ready to present that. So I think if we can either get a subcommittee together or actually send it over to Parks and Rec, we can probably get a decision on that in the short term.
Or over to complete streets, not Parks and Rec.
Well, yeah, Complete Streets also needs a copy. Absolutely.
Well, I try really hard because they're getting, those things down, that's going to have to be reconstructed.
Things that aren't easy to maintain are a pest for everyone. And so, plowing, I don't know what to do about. I think the plowing is going to have a negative impact on just about any type of structural encroachment you make into the right of way. So the question is, do we not do that? Or do we modify the structural improvements somewhat so that it accommodates more users? And I think
so. We'll have a report coming from Dennis shortly. So rather than
correct,
okay.
Yeah, no, we'll have it at Complete Streets as well, Mayor.
Okay, great, thank you.
Deb. You're muted.
Thank you. Couple of quick ones. The really quick one on slide 7, what is ASB and UST?
Underground storage tank.
East Wing, okay, so the East Wing, if we get to that project this year, has some asbestos issues up above the ceiling that exists. And so what that amounts to is pipe wrap and things like that.
Got it.
We had actually sampled the ceiling tiles and found that they were not containing asbestos, which was a big win for us. So what we need to do is get the asbestos remediation vendor back on site when we finalize those documents. And
so ASB relates to asbestos abatement, and UST is underground storage tank that doesn't exist anymore, but we're still dealing with the remediation. Correct. I think that answer your question.
Yes, it does.
Okay, thank you.
All right, and the other one, and it is a longer discussion for another time, but just want to keep sidewalks on the brain. I know we've talked about them. You did some great research that you sent mine and John's way, but very briefly, 1 or 2 words. Is there sidewalk budget in for 2021?
Actually, we're spending quite a bit of money on sidewalk at Wayne and Anthony this year, replacing a whole bunch of it. We're also doing a bid alternate for miscellaneous sidewalks throughout town. So that number should be about $50,000 in addition to Wayne and Anthony. And then also There are we had talked about perhaps doing a better match for private sidewalks in terms of getting funding, and a better match through an ordinance for private sidewalk funding as well, Deb. So you'll be seeing that proposal from me over the next week or so, and hopefully we can put that on the agenda for a future meeting.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Bob. Before we go to the library, I regretfully need to ask for a motion to go beyond 11 p.m., which is in the bylaws. That meetings must end by 11. Unless there's a motion, I would say probably a motion to extend to 11:30. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
So moved. Well, second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be enthusiastic. I just need to thank you. All right, we have extended the meeting to 11:30, and we will now bring up the library.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for sticking it out and taking the time to hear me tonight. And I really, really appreciate the opportunity to talk to you all. Can everybody hear me? Okay. Yeah, great. Before I begin, I just wanted to point out that I'll be sharing this presentation tonight with the library's treasurer, Dave Luber, and the board president, Tom Bintiger, who will be speaking immediately after me on their part of the presentation. I'd like to start by acknowledging the support and very hard work of the Friends of the Library. Their contributions really are an invaluable part of our effort, and we wouldn't be able to do everything that we do without them. If you could advance to the next slide, please. Thank you. 2020 was undeniably a very challenging year for everybody, including the library, and we've had to be as flexible as possible in adapting our services to be compliant with the operational limitations of the pandemic. But from the very beginning, our focus has been on customer service. As soon as the state required that we close, we increased our digital offerings and raised our limits on digital circulations, both for ebooks and in our streaming services. As I'm sure you know, in-person programming is one of the big draws at the library, but that was out of the question for us from mid-March on. So instead, we shifted all of our programming from in-person to virtual, which did take some experimentation to figure out. We've learned, for example, that families find that it's easier to attend a pre-recorded program and fit that into their schedule, but adults seem to prefer live sessions. So it's been a bit of a learning curve for us. One of our very popular offerings have been the craft kits that we produce for all ages, children and adults, which tie in either with programming or with the Creative Bug crafting platform, which we added this year because of the pandemic. Our crafts have always been very popular, and this was a way to offer that virtually rather than in person. Last but not least, we are particularly proud of our pandemic courtyard services, which allow patrons to pick up their materials on hold and provide a mini outdoor library for them to browse 7 days a week. Next slide, please. We do collect a wide variety of statistics every year, so I'll just highlight a few. As you can see, the circulation of digital materials skyrocketed in 2020, especially while the library was closed for physical operation from mid-March until late June. Unfortunately, the circulation of physical materials was hurt very heavily when the state-supported interlibrary loan delivery service stopped from mid-March until mid-October. First, it stopped because of the pandemic, and then it stayed stopped because of the complete lack of funding. All summer long, in fact, the library directors and staff in our consortium actually met in each other's parking lots every few weeks to exchange carloads of library materials in an effort to keep things moving. And I have to thank our a supervisor of maintenance who accompanied me on many of those trips, and we would fill my car and his truck with all of the materials that we needed. The consortium was eventually able to finance 50% of the cost of an internal delivery system for its member libraries for almost 2 months in the fall before the state delivery was able to resume. And the sharp uptick that we saw in physical circulation once it was able to start up again shows that there's still a very solid market for books and other items that people check out of the library. Next slide, please. Thank you. Our primary goal for 2021 is to return the library to normal operations as soon as we can safely do so. In fact, we plan to reopen by appointment starting on March 2nd for browsing and computer use. We had closed the building to the public access after Thanksgiving, just the way the borough did with Hartley Dodge Memorial. Until we can get completely back to normal, we'll continue to build on the initiatives that are already in place, and we'll expand the use of our outdoor campus for programming and patron access. We are very excited about the outdoor programming area that we're building on the side of the children's wing, which will allow us to start in-person programming in a safe way long before outdoor programming is possible. In-person programming, sorry, in a safe way. Our other key goal for 2021 will be to review and revise our capital construction plans to apply for the second round of Construction Bond Act funding when it becomes available. The State Library has no timeline for it yet, but we want to be fully prepared when it happens. And now I'll turn the presentation over to the library's treasurer, Dave Luber, to discuss our budget.
Okay, can you give me the next slide? Okay, our budget operating expenses for 2021 reflect a reduction of about $80,000 or about 4.1% from our 2020 budget. As with the borough, personnel expenses are the largest component of our budget. For 2021, personnel expenses are budgeted at $1,365,168, which is an increase of $21,000 plus $21,187 over our 2020 budget. I would note that the direct salary expenses are actually down by $12,355 from last year. And we accomplished that by eliminating 2 full-time positions for 2021. However, other benefit-related personnel expenses are up. The combination of technology, other, and capital expenses together will be reduced by almost $100,000 from 2020 to 2021. Next slide. On operating income, expenses will be down in 2021 because our income will be lower. Our borough support is down by $76,483 in 2021. In 2021, we faced a $36,483 reduction in the 1/3 mil statutory library appropriation. Also, in the past, the borough has appropriated an additional $110,000 that pays for the borough's internet access to the tune of about $70,000. And that's a pass-through through the library that supports RoseNet and the Board of Ed. The rest had gone to pay for much of the library's main assessment. Beginning this year, the library is absorbing the entire main assessment out of the 1/3 mil appropriation. Like the borough, we also saw a substantial COVID-related drop in our miscellaneous income, charges and fees in 2020, and we expect that income to be down again this year. And in fact, there won't be any fines anymore because of direction taken by Maine, which we have to follow. To help compensate for the above, we will be increasing our withdrawal from the library's endowment by $20,000 this year. Next chart. So in summary, the library has been challenged by a significant drop in projected income in 2021. And you see the numbers, first 3 lines. And measures that we have taken to respond to the loss include a reduction in 2 full-time positions and the increase we made in our library endowment contribution. There will be no decrease in services. However, Tom is going to talk about capital, which would be the next chart. Is Tom still here?
Am I unmuted now?
You are.
Someplace there would be a camera, but I guess I can go on without it. The slide that you're seeing there for the borough's anticipated contribution to the library's program to update, modernize, and respond to environmental requirement code changes that have occurred since the building was constructed over 50 years ago. He says, start my
We have your video, but now we lost your audio. You're muted, Tom. There you go.
okay.
Now you're
Perfect.
both here. All right.
I'm not used to running this with Zoom as you can imagine. As you know, the library building is really owned by the borough. We pay basically occupancy costs. Last year, again, you may remember that we discussed, as Lynn was alluding to, the state's establishment of the $125 million bond fund to update libraries throughout the state. In mid-2020, we submitted our application for new roofing, remove existing ceiling tiles and lighting to remove the asbestos in the adult and children's rooms, and then respond to technology changes, together with an update for changing the way we're using our rooms and provide for additional update in that area for a total cost of $2.4 million, which was what we applied for, with the state hopefully contributing $1.2 million. We were not successful, but as Lynn indicated, we're going to apply for the second tranche. Just for your information, there were 129 applicants and 38 were successful, with awards ranging, if you can believe this, from $90,000 to $12,500,000. The borough's contribution to the project is reflected in the $300,000 elements, and those were just spread because we have no idea if and when we get into work as to when we would have to start. The $900,000 then is then supported by the balance of $1.5 million, with the hope that we would be successful in contributing with the state funding. But we're planning that we may not get absolutely nothing. Currently, the library, together with the endowment fund and the Friends of the Library, we've accumulated funds amounting to $1,100,000 for the project. So a grand total, we've got almost 2 million of the 2 million for. So we can certainly see that I think we're relatively close. As Lynn has said, we're going to be reapplying. In closing, David's indicated our operating budget. My numbers reflect a reduction in the library funding, and we request your report in spending and funding the requested library budgets. We're open to questions.
All right, questions? Deb?
I think I may be the enemy of everybody tonight. I have two quick ones. First of all, a fantastic job dealing with the pandemic and making that work in these COVID times. Just two quick questions on slide 5. What is that other sort of thing? What goes in there? And then on slide 6, do you know, and if not, I can follow up after the meeting, how the various contributions from 2020 compare to 2019?
Let me get the first one and then I'll do this, and then you'll have to repeat the second one. Others includes like services, equipment, all the books and media that we buy, programs, utilities, and other overhead, and all overhead. So it's everything else almost other than people.
Got it. And then if you can go to the next slide, Jim, that how you show how variable contributions, obviously you have no idea what is going to happen. Are those numbers, I'm assuming, lower from Friends and other than they were in 2019? Do you know?
Yes.
Tom knows.
That's fine. I can follow up afterwards.
Basically, the Friends have been operating and supplying somewhere between $70,000 or $75,000. This year, they had to struggle with their dedicated funding that they supposedly were working for programming of 40,000. So they're really struggling to maintain. They really miss the mini courses. And if any of you don't subscribe to the current ones that they're offering, I really encouraging you. They really have found some additional good instructors.
Yeah, and they, as Tom pointed out, we didn't have many courses for 6 months, and we credit the friends very creatively have gone to Zoom format, and it's been very, very successful. They did one basically gratis for the patrons over the summer, and then they had one in the fall, 2 in the fall, and now Tom and I are taking one in the current term, and it's fabulous. But it's been a challenge, and since my wife runs them, I could tell you it's been a lot of work.
Thank you for everything.
Any other questions or comments? All right, thank you very much, and appreciate your staying almost to the witching hour to present this. And
you should have told me. I should have just rested in my pajamas.
Right. Yep.
Tough on a bunch of old guys like us.
So just before we move on to the next section, a point of order. Things we have to do tonight are the ordinances and another comment period plus the resolutions. The remaining part of the budget presentation could possibly pushed to the next meeting, which is only 2 weeks away. What's the feeling? Oscar, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I do. I think we should push the rest of the budget off until the next meeting, simply because that's a really important discussion to listen to and to have. As Pat Rose said tonight, we've got plenty of time. So I recommend
things could change. That the rest could change in presentation anyway in the next. So
correct.
Deb.
Totally agree. My only question is there anything else other that's planned for 2 weeks from now, budget wise, or is department heads the end of it? I just don't remember.
We would have time. We don't have anything.
No.
We said it's open and available if you want to.
Okay, then I am definitely all for
And
do it at a reasonable hour.
I'll be more mindful of the other agenda items. I was a little did the little bit stuff in the paper, the potato bag too much here.
I agree totally. I agree.
Yeah.
Let's move forward with the ordinances and such.
Yeah, no,
So,
let's give it the time it needs.
with that in mind, we will close the budget discussion, and will the clerk please read the statement related to ordinances for hearing?
Ordinances scheduled for hearing were introduced by title and passed on first reading at a regular meeting of the council held on both January the 25th and February 8th, 2021. All were posted and filed according to law, and copies were made available to the general public requesting same.
All right, I call up ordinances for second reading and ask the clerk to read said ordinance by title, ordinance 6-2021.
Ordinance of the Borough of Madison amending Chapter 195-27 of the Madison Borough Code entitled Land Development Ordinance of the Borough of Madison regarding changes in elevation.
Yep, thank you.
We've already held the hearing on.
Yes, the hearing was held on February, so I will ask for a motion.
Mayor, I move ordinance 6-2021.
Second.
Any further council discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Ms. Bailey?
Yes.
Ms. Byrne?
Yes.
Mr. Hoover? Ms. Cohen?
Yes.
Ms. Ehrlich?
Yes.
I declare ordinance 6-2021 adopted and finally passed, and ask the clerk to publish notice thereof in the newspaper and file the ordinance in accordance with the law. Ordinance 9-2021, and again, ordinances 7 and 8 were already adopted on February 8th, so we're on ordinance 9.
Ordinance 9 is ordinance of the Borough of Madison repealing Schedule 2 of Chapter 195-49 Land Development Ordinance of the Borough of Madison.
I open the hearing for ordinance 9-2021. I see one hand raised. That's been up for quite a while. So Oscar Maldonado, if you're not going to comment on this ordinance, please click unclick your hand. Okay, thank you very much. So it looks like there is no one to comment on this ordinance, so I close the hearing.
Mayor, I move ordinance 9-2021.
Second,
Any council discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Miss Bailey,
Yes.
Byrne,
yes.
Mr. Hoover,
Yes.
Ms. Cohen,
Yes.
Ms. Ehrlich.
Yes.
I declare ordinance 9-2021 adopted and finally passed, and ask the clerk to publish notice there of the newspaper and file the ordinance in accordance with the law. Ordinance 10-2021.
Ordinance of the Borough of Madison amending Chapter 195-32.5D of the Madison Borough Code entitled CC Community Commercial Zone Regulations.
I open the hearing on ordinance 10-2021. Anyone wishing to comment, please raise your hand. Seeing none, I close the hearing.
Mayor, I move ordinance 10-2021.
Second,
Any council discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Bailey,
Yes.
Ms. Byrne,
yes.
Mr. Hoover,
Yes.
Ms. Cohen,
Yes.
Ms. Ehrlich.
Yes.
I declare ordinance 10-2021 adopted and finally passed, and ask the clerk to publish notice there in the newspaper and file the ordinance according to law. Ordinance 11-2021.
Ordinance of the Borough of Madison appropriating $10,000 from the Electric Capital Improvement Fund for electric vehicle charging stations.
I open hearing on ordinance 11. Anyone wishing to comment, please raise your hand. Seeing none, I close the hearing.
Mayor, I move ordinance 11-2021.
Second.
Any council discussion?
Um,
Yep, Rachel?
I'll just mention that this $10,000 appropriation is in support of a $40,000 grant that was received by the borough for the installation of 10 additional electric vehicle charging stations. And that through her excellent work, Lisa Ellis has obtained great pricing for the additional charging stations. And through that, believes a good portion of the grant we obtained will offset this $10,000. So thank you to Lisa for your excellent management of the funds for this improvement.
Excellent. Any further discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Ms. Bailey,
Yes.
Ms. Byrne,
Yes.
Mr. Hoover,
Yes.
Ms. Cohen,
Yes.
Ms. Ehrlich.
Yes.
I declare ordinance 11-2021 adopted and finally passed, and ask the clerk to publish notice thereof in the newspaper and file the ordinance accordance with the law. And now we're on to second of invitations for discussion. This is when you may comment on any topic. Same rules apply. Please click and raise your hand, and I will recognize you. Once you are recognized, please state your name and address. Failure to do so could result in you being muted or cut off. And then I will give you, we ask you to keep your comments to 3 minutes, but try to keep your, we will cut you at 4 minutes. And no need to wait to raise your hand for the previous person to wait to speak. So we've got 3 people in the queue already. Kathy Daly, you are now, will be unmuted.
Hi, this is Kathy Daly, 20 West End Avenue. I've been paying attention to your budget discussions to date, and I listened earlier tonight to Pat Rowe's statement, heard a lot of the presentations that have been made. And also I know that Ron DiBiase also seconded Pat Rowe's statement. Speaking on my own behalf, and also speaking in my capacity as the chairwoman of the Madison Republican Committee, I joined both Pat Rowe and Ron DiBiase in their request for the council to provide full transparency of all the financial resources at their disposal as they discuss the budget in the future budget meetings you're going to have. Taking a look at my own notes from past years and looking at what you have presented in the last meeting, it looks like our combined free balance losses in 2020 were only about $700,000, which is less than 10%. And that's in an unprecedentedly awful year. So we're in a much better position I believe, than we predicted or expected this time last year. So that's actually very good news. The end of year free balance for the electric department is looks like it's up $160,000, even though the utility surplus transfer was also up. Water free balance also looks pretty high, even with the capital surplus well funded. So it looks like we could dramatically increase our utility surplus transfer to support the budget and not have to raise taxes in the middle of a pandemic. So just looking at things and knowing that you still have time between now and when you have to finalize your budget, I'm very confident that working together with our borough administration, you can all, Mayor, you and the council can all find a smart and workable way to keep taxes at their current levels without compromising services. And also keep the electric and water also at their current rates. Always keeping in mind that we've had an economic shutdown for the last year. And you have a great number of residents here in Madison who are hurting financially, especially those who own or who work for small businesses. So I'm confident that you can keep taxes either the same or perhaps even better, you can find a way to lower them in acknowledgement of the hardships of this pandemic. So those are my comments for this evening, and I look forward to hearing the future budget discussions, and also, again, the full transparency of all the financial resources that are at the Borough Council's disposal for decision making. Thank you very much for your time.
Very much, Kathy, and thank you for the input. Tom, you are now up, and I again apologize that we didn't get you in on time before, but we're here.
All right. Hello, Mayor. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, I was a little disappointed, Mayor. I wanted to speak for 3 minutes first about the open space budget and then use this 3 minutes to talk about other town issues. So hopefully you'll give me that extra minute that you promised people. But yeah, John, that's funny, huh? I need more time. I talk a lot. I have to say that this whole limiting residents to talking in only 3 or 4 minutes, it doesn't really seem like it's very welcoming for residents' comments. And we don't even have an opportunity to have an exchange anymore with our borough representatives, our leaders, unless we know how to reach them offline. And 99% of the people in town probably don't know how to reach everybody, don't feel comfortable doing it. I don't think it's appropriate. We should have an opportunity to talk with one another. We can ask a question, you can respond, we can agree, we can go back and forth. So, and this might have been discussed before, Mayor, and the rest of the people on council, but I would like to see you at least once every 3 or 4 months have a town hall meeting where residents can come and talk with you and you can answer questions and you can.
Tom, just a second. I didn't start your time, but minor
Don't worry.
Minor detail. And I was muted trying to wonder why you were ignoring me. If you can state your name and address, even though I did announce we do have to have you state it, and then
Thomas Harlan-Poutis.
Okay.
So did
now your time has started.
Do I have to repeat all that?
Nope. That's all in the record.
All right. So
not a freebie.
I was on the town hall meeting suggestion. I think a lot of residents would agree with me that they would really like an opportunity to discuss borough issues, community affairs, different things with the people who we elected to represent us, including you, Mayor, and also the borough administrators from time to time. I think the library funding presentation was great and thorough. The people on the library board of trustees and the people that work for the library work very hard. It's, I think it's the most frequently visited building normally in the borough. So it provides so many different services to the community. It should be promoted more. All the different opportunities it offers residents to just get different, experiences from visual to audio, in person. And then once it reopens, it's going to be very welcome by everybody, including my kids. The update on the public safety, specifically fire and police. I'm really surprised that the chief has to even ask us to replace 2 retired firemen. I mean, we all know that we all should know, at least, that the most important thing is keeping our home safe, and the borough is our home. So if all of a sudden we are lacking firemen, and we're gonna try to kind of detract a little bit and say we're just trying to get more volunteers to replace the paid professionals, I don't see how that's a match at all. I mean, we need these paid people. We always had them. We have more residents living in the borough now. Why would we even allow any lapse in time from having a fully staffed fire department? I don't get it. You guys all know, and you've all done a great job taking care of the community, and public safety is so important. Same thing with the police. If they were budgeted last year for the staff that they're missing, why is it taking so long to replace? And then the chief tells us that we had a great candidate that we lost because we couldn't interview him fast enough or offer him a position fast enough. Don't worry about the volunteers. If they're out there, they'll come, but it's hard enough to get people to volunteer to coach in youth sports, let alone go for training and be firemen. They should, but it's just not that easy anymore. I don't know. I don't want to make excuses for people. They just don't come on and volunteer. They can't, they don't have the time. You see it all around you. So please don't waste any more time and take chances with our safety and not replace the people that retired. This is my opinion. You can have your own. You might hear from residents who don't believe that. Another thing I wanted to talk about.
We got 1 minute.
1 minute plus one?
Yeah, yeah, we are at 3. You're at 3 already.
Well, the outdoor recreation and the money from the open space fund, I think should be revisited where the priorities lie right now. Since COVID, you've seen what a outdoor walking and outdoor activity community we've become, with residents just looking for things to do in the borough. Noe Pond Club is closed now. You're going to have 100 people looking for opportunities or more to play paddle and pickleball. The borough does make an effort to set up the pickleball, but I think an addition to the borough of paddleball courts would be fantastic. So please rethink all that. I looked at your schedule of what you have on the priorities list. I think there's things there that can be tabled and moved. I would also like to say that I'd like to see from the borough more information on any surplus that we have in different funds, electric, open space, reserves for uncollected taxes, general funds, just so that we have an idea of how competent we are and what a great job our borough has done to prepare us for times like this and what we have available to use now.
And that's time.
That's it, Mayor?
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
Well, so when is the town hall meeting coming?
No, it's very good suggestions, and we will work on the suggestions and also your input related to open space and the balances have been brought up by others. We'll make sure we're, as we always are with the budget, fully transparent. So there'll be more to come on the budget presentations in the at the next meeting. And Michael Shagru.
Thanks, Bob. Hi, Mike Shagru, 24 West End Avenue in Madison. I'm also the volunteer captain. I'm the captain of the volunteer company here in Madison, the fire company. And listening to the budget presentation by the chief, the needs outlined in it, the discussion following it, I have to be honest, I really feel like there's a lack of understanding by the council of how our hybrid department works. And we would be happy to sit with the Borough Council and explain the training needs of volunteers and career personnel, how they work together as a team. I'm also concerned about the statement made by the spokesperson, Michael Pelessier, and the fire department in a recent Madison Patch article. Chief stole some of my thunder and he corrected the record on the fire truck when it comes to that. But Mr. Pelessier also compared Madison to Parsippany, which was an interesting choice, since I don't think we compare ourselves to Parsippany with anything else, schools or anything like that. But in that statement, Mr. Pelessier also completely misstates their fire department budget. Mr. Pelessier reports that the Parsippany fire budget is under $500,000 when it's actually almost $3 million. Now, it could be that Mr. Pelessier looked at only the fire prevention budget of Parsippany and not the entire operating budget. But I couldn't even find all the numbers. I could find numbers for districts 1, 2, 3, 4, no, 1, 2, 3, 5, but not 4 and 6. And I got over $3 million. Now, looking at fire prevention only, that's an easy mistake for someone to make if they're not familiar with the fire service in our county. Totally understandable. But 500 grand and over 3 million is quite a delta. That's quite a difference. And I don't think that that's a fair comparison. So I'm hoping that given the inaccuracies of this statement, which Mr. Pelessier, by the way, made on behalf of the borough, of all the people sitting there listening, he made that statement on behalf of the Borough Council and the needs identified by our fire chief, who said, please, we need help. I hope the Borough Council can continue to support the Madison Fire Department and the health and safety of its residents. You all know that one of the reasons why we are the #1 town to live in New Jersey is because of health and safety. It's health and safety. We're a safe town. We have a great downtown. We have a train line. We have wonderful schools. But safety is one of those metrics. And you all know it. We don't need 14 guys. We need more than that. And you know that too. So if you'd like to sit down with us, we'd be more than happy to. We tried to sit down with Mr. Landrigan. He couldn't make it. Ms. Byrne did find time in her schedule. We sat down with her. We'd be happy to sit with anyone to understand what the challenges are and what a dedicated bunch of guys we have working for us right now. But we are struggling. We are struggling, and you can help us. Let's keep Madison the #1 town to live in New Jersey. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much, Mike. Appreciate your input there. And Oscar Maldonado.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Oscar Maldonado, 4 Del Barton Drive. I just want to say that on September 18th at 7:28 p.m., there was a fire in my home. I called 911 at 7:32 p.m. and the Madison Fire Department was here by 7:35 p.m. They saved my family. They saved my home. These guys, they lay their lives down. They respond just beyond professionally. And as we start to think about the needs of the fire department, I just implore you to take it into serious consideration. When the fire department showed up, I was just about to try and put the fire out myself, and I quickly became overwhelmed with smoke. I think you guys really need to take this into consideration and hear my words. Minutes really matter. They really matter. This fire got out of control between 7:28 and 7:35 in just a matter of minutes. We moved here 3 years ago. One of the main reasons we did was because of a full-time fire department. The health and safety of my family is absolutely critical. So I just want you guys to take that into consideration. And then lastly, as you look at the parks, please take a strong look at Del Barton Park. It feels like a forgotten park in Madison. I've been to just about every park in town, and this one just by far feels like an afterthought to everyone. So please just take those 2 things into consideration, and thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. And I appreciate not only you sharing your story tonight, but in previous communications. That certainly shows your appreciation and the understanding of the impact of our great fire department. And also we're comments with Del Barton Park. We've been working on that and also working on doing a complete master plan. So there is no forgotten parks. At this point, I see no other raised hands. So I will close the comment period. And we will now, there are no introduction of the ordinances to be introduced, and we'll move on to consent agenda resolutions. Will the clerk please read the statement?
Consent agenda resolutions will be enacted with a single motion. Any resolution requiring expenditure is supported by a certification of availability of funds. Any resolution requiring discussion will be removed from the consent agenda. All resolutions will be reflected in full in the minutes.
Mayor, I move resolution 74-2021 through resolution 80-2021.
Second.
Any council discussion or any that need to be pulled? Roll call vote, please.
Ms. Bailey,
Yes.
Byrne,
Yes.
Mr. Hoover,
Yes.
Ms. Cohen,
Yes.
all set?
I think I'm next. I'm yes.
Yep. We
You
might have
did
lost you.
speak, but yes, I can go
Yeah.
through it again if you like.
No, we didn't, we lost you
Did we get it?
after
Lost you.
Ms. Cohen. Yep. So.
Can you
Ms.
hear me now, Mayor?
Yes.
Okay,
So we just need to record Rachel's vote.
correct. I have it.
Okay,
Thank
you
you.
got it. Yes, all right.
Mhm.
And there is no unfinished business and approval of vouchers. Will the clerk please read the vote voucher total?
For the current fund, $7,146,330.29. General Capital Fund, $47,293.47. For the Electric Operating Fund, $71,829.70. For the Water Operating Fund, $29,592.86. For the Trust, $188,720.04. The total is $7,483,766.36.
Mayor, I move approval of the vouchers.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Miss Bailey,
Yes.
Byrne,
Yes.
Mr. Hoover,
Yes.
Ms. Cohen,
Yes.
Ehrlich.
Yes.
There we go. And there is no new business, so Rachel, would you like to make a motion?
Sure. I move that we adjourn this epic meeting.
All in favor?
Second, aye.
All right, thank you all, and thank you for the public that came to join us tonight for a long meeting, but very important meeting. And we'll be back in 2 weeks with what was not covered tonight and more budget information. And as we've been saying, a lot of work to be done before it is finally introduced. Take care and be well.
Good night.
Good night.
Right.